Extreme cold descends, the world is frozen. The apocalypse has come, need to stockpile supplies. No, my supplies are distributed daily. Lonely in the apocalypse, need to stockpile goddesses. No, goddesses will come to you on their own. The summer heat is scorching, even the air seems distorted. Longwu Jiangxing. Even though it's already 7 p.m., the oppressive heat still makes people restless. Lin Dong, I'm pregnant. In the residential area, a woman in a spaghetti-strapped nightgown, with sallow complexion and rough skin, looking about 30 years old, suddenly said to the man in front of her. The man was tall and sturdy, with slightly dark skin and regular features, wearing a black foam courier uniform. He was stunned for a moment after hearing the woman's words. Oh, congratulations. Lin Dong was a bit bewildered, but still offered congratulations. The woman immediately became agitated. Aren't you going to take responsibility? Lin Dong exclaimed, what responsibility? I just deliver your packages every day and leave. What does your pregnancy have to do with me? The woman's eyes instantly reddened. You jerk. Last month you delivered a bottle of shampoo to me. After I washed my hair, my period stopped. Today I found out I'm pregnant, and you still say it has nothing to do with you. Lin Dong, can you be any more ridiculous? Idiot. Lin Dong cursed, turned, and ran clumsily, escaping the residential area on his electric. The woman chased after him, shouting, Lin Dong, don't try to evade responsibility. According to the custom in my hometown, you have to give me 300 yuan as bride price, or I'll sue you for rape. The residents in the community immediately showed expressions of gossip. Lin Dong ran far away before finally breathing a sigh of relief. He was a courier responsible for delivering packages in that woman's community. Because the woman had many packages, they had come to know each other somewhat. He didn't expect to be asked to take responsibility today, which was truly shocking to his worldview. Lin Dong didn't want to argue with the woman because he felt somewhat sad. Today was the day his girlfriend, no ex-girlfriend Zhao Yufei's postgraduate entrance exam results came out. He didn't receive good news, only a cold string of text messages. Lin Dong, I've passed the exam. There are some things I need to make clear. Let's break up. You should know that we are no longer from the same world. You're just a courier earning only 500 yuan a month, while I'm now a graduate student and will surely have a bright future. I know this is a bit cruel to you after all you've been supporting me financially all these years while I prepared for the exam, but I've also given you several years of my youth. From now on, let's not contact each other anymore. That's it. God knows how painful Lin Dong felt when he saw that message. What made it worse was that she also posted a WeChat moment. In the end, one person bears it all, poor me, asking for a hug. In the past, he and Zhao Yufei were a couple envied by everyone in college, a perfect match that countless people admired. But the good times didn't last. Lin Dong's parents died in an accident, forcing him to drop out of school and support himself by delivering packages. In addition, he also had to support his girlfriend, who was determined to pursue postgraduate studies. He finally managed to get his girlfriend through the exam by scrimping and saving, but the next moment, she kicked him to the curb. Lin Dong instinctively wanted to salvage the relationship, but after thinking it over, he eventually deleted the words he was about to send. You're carrying nothing, it's all on me. However, he let it go. He rode his scooter to the riverside, looked at the city nightscape, and silently smoked, silently suffering. This life is really inhuman. In this city, the Lin family had no relatives. After his parents passed away, his girlfriend became his only spiritual support. Now his girlfriend had also ruthlessly kicked him away. He really didn't know how to go on. Ding. Congratulations, host, for successfully binding the apocalypse check-in system. In 5 hours, a heavy snow will fall across the globe, temperatures will plummet, and the human living environment will become increasingly harsh. Order and rules will gradually collapse. To ensure the host's survival needs, this system will provide various check-in rewards at 000 daily. Options include daily necessities, weapons, materials, energy, physical enhancement, etc. The host can choose one reward per day. All selected rewards will be stored in the system space and can be retrieved at the host's will. Lin Dong stood there completely stunned, looking up at the starry sky. It's the middle of summer, I haven't stopped sweating, and you're telling me it will snow tonight. Ding. Today's check-in reward is issued retroactively. Options are as follows. 1. Unlimited food and drink, including alcohol and beverages. 2. Medical emergency kit containing all kinds of medical supplies. 3. A golden desert eagle with infinite ammo clip. 4. A can of hairspray that makes you incredibly handsome. Lin Dong frowned. Is this real? In that case, the first step to survive the apocalypse, first choose diaper. No. Of course it's food. In the apocalypse, food shortage is the most important issue. He didn't expect the first day's reward to include food, and it's unlimited. I choose 1. In an instant, the image before him disappeared, replaced by a mysterious, subtle feeling, as if his consciousness was connected to another space. Is this the system space? Give me an iced Americano with less ice. Plaque. The next second, a cold cup of coffee appeared in Lin Dong's hand. Damn, it's real. Lin Dong now fully believed in the system and the apocalypse it foretold. He downed the iced coffee, calming his hot body and mind, and his eyes gradually changed. All right. Since the rules of survival have changed, don't blame me for being ruthless. I've had enough of this damn life. It's time to live differently. From today, I'm not eating beef. System, give me a few more beef skewers. Lin Dong quickly got on his electric scooter, one hand on the throttle and the other holding the skewers, speeding home. Jiyuan residential area, considered a mid-range community in Jiangxing. Lin Dong had a house here, the last asset his parents left him. Building 5. Lin Dong was thinking about how to survive the apocalypse while waiting for the elevator, his body emitting the smell of sweat from a day of hard work. Tisk, what's that smell like? A disdainful voice came from behind. A tall, slender woman with a charming face, wearing a bank uniform, black stockings on her legs, covering her nose with a look of disgust. When Lin Dong turned around, she involuntarily stepped back 2 steps. Shen Wanyue. Shen Wanyue was Lin Dong's neighbor. Lin Dong lived in 300. Shen Wanyue and her newlywed husband Wang Sheng lived in 302. They had been married a month ago. At that time, Lin Dong was busy delivering packages and caught a distant glimpse of Shen Wanyue in her white wedding dress, which deeply impressed him. This woman, whether in appearance or figure, was at least 80 out of 100, far surpassing the ex-girlfriend who had kicked him out. A woman of irresistible charm. Seeing Shen Wanyue, a faint, enigmatic smile slowly appeared on Lin Dong's lips. You? What are you smiling at? Shen Wanyue couldn't hide her contempt. She worked at a bank and her husband Wang Sheng was a high-level manager at a company. Both considered themselves social elites and looked down upon Lin Dong, a Lola, but on the surface they had to be polite. Ding, the elevator arrived. Lin Dong stepped in while Shen Wanyue clearly intended to wait for another one. Lin Dong kept a cold smile. Just before the elevator doors closed, he suddenly said, "If you get hungry, remember to come find me." The doors closed. Shen Wanyue was momentarily stunned, then filled with rage. What did he take her for? A prostitute? A slut? Go to him for a bite to eat. This is such an insult. You damn courier, what did you say? Come down here. Shen Wanyue roared and pounded on the elevator doors. The hot weather instantly made her, but Lin Dong had already gone up. Upon returning home, Lin Dong threw himself onto the sofa, clutching 2 cans of iced cola. He chugged one and idly played with the other. Since an extreme ice apocalypse was imminent, he thought had better dig out his down jacket and thick quilts first. A sudden thunderous knocking erupted at the door. From outside came Shen Wanyue's furious roar. You damn delivery guy! Get out here and explain what you meant by that. Come out. Don't hide inside pretending you're not there. I know you're home. Get out here. Lin Dong's brow furrowed slowly. Would this never end? Lin Dong, you're a worthless piece of trash. How does a scumbag like you even exist in society? I'm going to complain to the property management right now. No, we'll call the cops. If you don't come out and apologize, I'll make sure you can't even live in this neighborhood. With a soft click, the door opened. But it wasn't Lin Dong's door, it was his own. Wang Sheng, a man who looked gentle and refined in his glasses, stepped out, the very image of an intellectual. He had opened the door upon hearing his wife's voice. What's wrong, Xiaoyu? Why are you banging on Lin Dong's door? Seeing her husband, Shen Wanyue angrily repeated what Lin Dong had said earlier. Honey, that damn delivery guy harassed me. I want him out of this neighborhood. Hearing that his wife had been harassed, Wang Sheng was furious too. Damn it, is that kid asking for trouble? Don't worry, Xiaoyu, I'll make sure he. Before he could finish, Lin Dong opened his door. Wang Sheng looked up in anger, only to meet Lin Dong's icy, furious gaze. His rage instantly subsided. Wang Sheng stood only 1.7 meters tall, while Lin Dong was a towering 1.8 meters. The outcome of any fight was painfully clear. Shen Wanyue, however, knew no fear. She pointed at Lin Dong and screamed, "You pathetic loser. Explain yourself right now. What did you mean by that? Or I won't let this go today." Lin Dong let out a slow, cold smile and took a single step forward without a word. Feeling his overwhelming masculine presence, Shen Wanyue flinched and instinctively stepped back, casting a desperate look at her husband. Wang Sheng's eyes darted around, then he suddenly broke into a smile. "Oh, Lin Dong, you're back. You must be tired after a long day's work. Well, get some rest early." With that, he hurriedly dragged his bewildered wife back inside and slammed the door. "Coward," Lin Dong scoffed, deciding not to pursue the matter further. Back inside, Shen Wanyue glared at her husband. "Honey, why did you run? Didn't you see how he acted? He did something wrong and still dared to threaten us. Are you?" Wang Sheng shook his head, his expression serious. "You're wrong, dear. I'm not scared. I'm thinking about our safety. We're social elites with a happy family. Someone like Lin Dong, a bottom feeder of society, is bound to be jealous. If we push him too far, and he snaps, what if he—" Shen Wanyue shuddered at the thought, a wave of fear washing over her. "Then, what should we do, honey? Let's call the cops and have him arrested." "Impossible," Wang Sheng said with a bitter smile. "Lin Dong only said something rude. It doesn't even count as harassment. The police won't arrest someone for such a trivial matter. Doing that would only enrage Lin Dong further, and it wouldn't be worth it. From what I see, Lin Dong is timid at heart. As long as we don't push him over the edge, he won't dare do anything. Let's just let it go. Always remember the principle of the happy person's retreat. We're the happy ones. When faced with scum like him, it's better to step back. Shen Wangyue looked at him doubtfully. Of course, Wang Sheng said with a straight face. In truth, he was secretly relieved that Lin Dong wasn't some thug, or else he wouldn't have stood a chance in a fight. After digging out all the thick quilts and blankets, Lin Dong took a shower, then locked all the doors and windows, calmly awaiting the apocalypse. That night, a chill wind suddenly cut through the sweltering air, and heavy snowflakes began to drift down from the sky. The snow then came down with a vengeance. In just half an hour, the temperature plummeted from 38 degrees Celsius to 0 degrees, and it was still dropping. Midnight arrived. Ding. Today's check-in rewards are as follows. 1. 1 sets of thermal underwear made from special materials resistant to 100 degrees Celsius. 2. Infinite battery pack compatible with all electronic products on the market. 3. 1000 terabytes USB drives containing all movies and TV shows from Blue Star, including adult films. 4. A pack of gum that you just can't stop chewing after a moment's thought. Lin Dong chose option 1. The temperature was dropping too fast. Staying warm was the top priority. Was the system joking? Why were the fourth options for the past 2 days so ridiculous? With a thought, a set of black thermal underwear appeared in his hands. He touched it. The fabric was unique, with the comfort of pure cotton and the softness of cashmere. After putting it on, Lin Dong's eyes lit up. This thermal underwear doesn't just keep out the cold, it actively generates heat. Even his exposed face, hands, and feet no longer felt cold. It was almost like spring. With food and warmth secured, Lin Dong sat peacefully by the window, watching the snow blanket the city in white. Snow in June. Many Southerners joyfully ran outside, marveling at the sudden snowfall, building snowmen, and having snowball fights. After all, Jiang City was in the south of Dragon Country, where snow was a rare sight. Many excitedly put on their down jackets and rushed out to play. Suddenly a scream rang out from downstairs. What is this? Lin Dong quickly looked over, his pupils contracting in shock. Under the glow of the street lamp, a young man's face suddenly sprouted green pustules the size of eggs. Not just his face. His hands, arms, every inch of exposed skin was covered in hideous pustules. The people around him fled in terror, staring at him in horror. What is this? Help me! Help! The man begged for assistance, but within half a minute the pustules burst, oozing disgusting pus. As the pus drained, his body stiffened, and he fell to the ground with wide eyes. Someone's dead. Soon the surrounding crowd scattered in sheer panic, all stunned by the sight. But he wasn't alone. Many soon discovered pustules growing on their own bodies, and chaos erupted in the neighborhood. Lin Dong observed carefully. All those who developed pustules had been playing in the snow outside. The snow was poisonous, and lethally so. Within 5 minutes of contact, pustules appeared. Once they emerged, death followed in under half a minute. He wondered if the poison in the snow was contagious. Hiss, this is brutal. Lin Dong couldn't help but draw a sharp breath. In just a short while, over a dozen bodies lay scattered in the compound with wails. As the cries grew louder, sleeping residents in the neighborhood turned on their lights, ran to their balconies, and opened windows to gawk at the scene below. Some hot-tempered ones even yelled down, "Are you all crazy? It's the middle of the night. What's all the noise about?" But when they saw the bodies on the ground, they froze. A few minutes later they went mad, because they had stuck their heads out and touched the snow, and pustules began forming on them too. With a click, Lin Dong turned his head. The light in apartment 302 next door had come on. Shen Wangyue, wrapped in a blanket, stepped onto her balcony to check the commotion. But just as she was about to open the window, she spotted Lin Dong on his balcony. He had to admit, even without makeup, the woman was stunning, though her arrogant eyes made one want to gouge them out. You pathetic loser, she snorted, then turned off the light and went back inside. Little did she know that very act had just saved her life. Lin Dong watched for a while, then withdrew his gaze. He opened short videos on his phone and saw that the world was in chaos. Topics like toxic snow were trending on hot searches. Countless people were crying for help and wailing. Many cars had already started driving out of the residential compound, but soon their tires slipped and they crashed into a tangled mess. Drivers honked desperately, creating a terrible noise. Help! My daughter also touched the snow just now. Does anyone have medicine? Save the child. What the hell is going on? Is it the apocalypse? I called the security bureau. Busy. Who called 120? Also busy. What should we do? Who can save me? My biological dad started getting pustules. I locked him in the room. I don't know if it's contagious. Please, a little brother with 8-pack abs comes. Neighbors, don't be afraid. The disaster is only temporary. Trust the authorities. We will be saved. Save my ass. The whole world is in chaos. Who's going to save a dumbass like you? Who has bottled water and snacks? They'll pay a fortune to buy. Smart people already sensed that this would be a disaster not easily overcome. It had only been snowing for an hour, yet the snow was already nearly half a meter deep, and there was no sign of it stopping. Therefore, stockpiling food and water became an urgent priority. Since no one knew whether the toxic snow could penetrate clothing to the skin, nobody dared risk their life. Thus the supplies in each household within the community became the last hope. Lin Dong checked the doors and windows again to ensure no snow would drift and then fell asleep with peace of mind. Let chaos reign, let chaos reign. The next morning at 8 o'clock Lin Dong woke up on time. He went to the window and looked outside, unable to help but click his tongue in amazement. Yesterday's corpses were all buried under the snow. The snow surface had already risen past the first floor and was close to the second floor windows. The temperature had also dropped to minus 30 degrees Celsius. The only fortunate thing was that the snow had temporarily stopped, though the sky was overcast, and it was unknown when the next snowfall would come. He checked the indoor facilities. As expected, water, electricity, and natural gas were all out. The toxic snow alone was terrifying enough, but now with no electricity, such horrifyingly low temperatures could only be withstood by sheer willpower and the down jackets on their bodies. But how many people could withstand it? Probably many would freeze to death today. Lin Dong was not panicked at all. He continued to stay indoors, eating hot pot and drinking hot tea while casually checking the messages in the owner's group. After a night of torment, many people in the group had fallen silent, whether poisoned by the snow or frozen to death. Only a few desperate pleas for help remained, but obviously no one responded. Lin Dong did not go out all day. At 12 o'clock, a new reward came. Ding! Today's check-in reward options are as follows. 1. A golden desert eagle with infinite ammunition. 2. Power level increase by 5. 3. Apocalypse sled can glide on snow and ice unimpeded. Travel. 4. A can of carbonated drink that makes you burp endlessly. What a mess. Lin Dong really wanted the golden desert eagle, but in the end he chose option 2. From this check-in it seemed that rewards could be repeated, so there was no need to worry. He could choose it next time it appeared. As for the power enhancement, it was quite sci-fi. He decided to try it. After the reward was credited, Lin Dong felt a surge of powerful energy suddenly fill his body. At the same time, a line of information appeared in the upper left corner of the system. Power level 6. After feeling it, Lin Dong punched the solid wood dining table. The table was instantly blasted with a fist-sized hole, which made him extremely satisfied. The power upgrade seemed to involve a comprehensive enhancement of attack, defense, agility, etc. This punch didn't even hurt. Over the next 3 days, Lin Dong still did not go out. The heavy snow outside fell intermittently, and it had nearly reached his window. Lin Dong finally scored the golden desert eagle he had been longing for, and also obtained the unwavering accuracy talent skill. For the third reward, Lin Dong chose the constant temperature furnace. This was a device shaped like a furnace, but only the size of a palm, emitting a faint blue glow. It required no charging or fuel, as it came with a sufficient internal energy source. Constant temperature furnace effect. When placed indoors, it maintains a constant temperature of 26 degrees Celsius within a 3-meter radius. The downside is that it cannot penetrate walls, but there are 100 of them. Placing a few around the house will make it all warm. Lin Dong was speechless. Doesn't this thing make my thermal underwear seem useless? However, with this thing, he could take a bath at home. The infinite food supply from the first day already included hot water, and he no longer had to worry about food getting cold after a few bites. On this day, Lin Dong, whose phone still had a sliver of battery, noticed that someone in the owner's group was calling for a material exchange in the underground garage. This was a wise choice. Although the underground garage connected to the outside, the entrance and exit had been blocked by heavy snow. As long as one didn't go near them, each building could access the garage via the safety stairways. Staying cooped up at home, eating, drinking, and lazing around all day was not a good idea. Lin Dong decided to go down and take a look. He put on a thick down jacket covering himself until only his face was exposed, and then went out. Although he was no longer cold, he still had to put on a show. The underground garage was now packed with people. Lin Dong quickly estimated the entire residential area had 14 buildings with over 270 residents, but only about 600 people had come to the garage. That meant in just 5 days so many people in the community had died. But thinking about it, it might not be that bad. The snow fell in the middle of the night, so most people hadn't been exposed. Many might still have sufficient supplies at home and didn't need to go out for exchanges yet. The entire community was immersed in an atmosphere of sorrow and helplessness. But what could be done? As long as they were alive, there was hope. Everyone shouted energetically to trade. Some people chopped up furniture and lit bonfires for both light and warmth. Of course, clever ones also extracted fuel from car gas tanks to cook hot food. I have a 3000 mAh power bank with half charge left. I want to trade for a bottle of mineral water. I have a pack of Huazi cigarettes to trade for instant noodles and bread. I have a sausage to trade for fever medicine. Most were trading for food and water, while a few wanted medicine to treat their families. After all, the temperature had dropped so quickly that many people had caught colds. Although the bottled water was mostly frozen, burning a gold-devouring beast's summer homework could still thaw it. As Lin Dong walked, he paused and saw Wang Sheng and Shun Wanyue, the couple. The two were wrapped up like Zongzi, revealing only their pale, weak faces. In front of them were various gold and silver jewelry. It seemed Shun Wanyue had taken out her dowry to survive. But after several days in the apocalypse, everyone knew that gold and silver were now worthless. No one paid them any attention. Shun Wanyue looked up and saw Lin Dong's smiling face. She couldn't help recalling what Lin Dong had said that day. If you're hungry, remember to come to me. Could it be that Lin Dong had known the heavy snow was coming? But Lin Dong didn't go up to taunt her. He didn't like to be proactive. As he wandered, he accidentally spotted another stunning beauty, no less attractive than Shun Wanyue, and his eyes lit up. Although she was wrapped up tightly, her facial features were extremely delicate. Her bright eyes looked like gems, her eyebrows were finely shaped, and her lips, though slightly pale, had a petal-like contour that was full of charm. Moreover, even the thick down jacket could not hide her perfectly explosive figure, a true Mercedes-Benz G-Class. She was about 1.75 meters tall. If she wore high heels, she would probably be as tall as Lin Dong. When did this community have such a stunning Ling Shui? The woman, judging by her appearance, was only in her early 20s. She was alone, curling herself into a corner. In front of her were displayed various luxury bags and cosmetics, much like Shun Wanyue and her husband. No one even glanced at them. You might as well lay out cash since they're all just useless junk, Lin Dong observed while eavesdropping on others' conversations, roughly piecing together a few useful pieces of information. First, the toxin in the snow only spreads through skin contact and is not airborne. That was good news. Otherwise, who would dare open the door for ventilation? Even if they didn't starve, they'd suffocate to death. The second good news was that someone driven by hunger had conducted a bold experiment. As long as you used waterproof materials, like wearing plastic bags under your clothes and holding an umbrella to block the snow, you could walk in areas where the snow wasn't deep. The only trouble was that the snow on the community roads was now over 6 meters deep, making it impossible for anyone to venture out on foot to search for supplies. Of course, many people were discussing modifying vehicles with available household tools, hoping to see if they could drive out. Lin Dong thought it was all nonsense. With this snow depth, even an excavator would struggle to get out, let alone a car. This also showed how dire the shortage of supplies had become. The third piece of news made Lin Dong somewhat uneasy. The bodies of those poisoned by the snow all had white pupils frozen in extremely twisted postures looking up. These bodies, they won't all turn into zombies, will they? Lin Dong couldn't help but speculate, and the more he thought about it, the more possible it seemed. Once the weather warms up and these bodies thaw, they might very well come back to life. It seemed that from now on, whenever an option to boost his strength appeared, he should choose it without hesitation. The stronger he was, the greater his chances of survival. Handsome, do you have any bread or instant noodles? These luxury bags of mine cost tens of thousands. Can I trade them for some food? Ling Shui, seeing a young man lost in thought as he slowly approached, couldn't help but ask. Lin Dong snapped back to reality and raised an eyebrow slightly. The woman's voice was clear and melodious with a hint of allure, quite pleasant to the ear. These things of yours are useless. Can you offer something more practical? Lin Dong unabashedly appraised Ling Shui's pretty face. Ling Shui bit her lip tightly. She knew that at a time like this, luxury bags and the like were meaningless. Everyone was bundled up like dumplings and starving. Who had the mind to dress up with bags? She just couldn't bring herself to give up hope. Living alone without a man to rely on in this brutal era, the only thing of value she had was her body. But she wasn't ready to give herself away so easily. Handsome then. How about this? Ling Shui pondered for a moment, then pulled a black plastic bag from her pocket, completely unaware that her ID card had fallen to the ground. Lin Dong Sharpie noticed the woman's name was Ling Shui. He took the bag and looked inside, immediately breaking out in a cold sweat. Inside were all kinds of stockings, knee-highs, mid-calves, tights, garter belts, fishnets, you name it. Damn, she calls me handsome, but she's still treating me like some lowlife. Ling Shui lowered her voice. Handsome, these are ones I've worn and haven't washed yet. You get lost. Lin Dong tossed the bag back and pulled a piece of bread from his own pocket. I live at 5301. If you want food, come to my place. We're all adults here, you should know what I mean. With that, he gave her a meaningful look, put away the bread, and turned to leave. Ling Shui bit her pale lips so hard they almost bled. Before the apocalypse, she wouldn't have given such a loser a second glance. Now to think this loser wanted her. Furious as she was, what could she do? He had food. Lin Dong continued wandering for barely 2 minutes, when suddenly 3 large men burst out of the emergency exit of Building 7. The leader had a face full of brutish features, clearly a ruthless type. All 3 were wielding kitchen knives. Liang Ming waved his hand. Let's rob them. With that, he charged toward the nearest stall run by an old woman. On her stall sat a can of senior milk powder, which Liang Ming snatched up. Hey, why are you grabbing my stuff? Someone help. Robbery. The old woman clung desperately to Liang Ming's arm, trying to reclaim her milk powder, her only hope of trading for food. Damn it, you're asking for death. Liang Ming's eyes flashed coldly as he raised the kitchen knife and brought it down viciously. Thud. Blood splattered. The kitchen knife embedded in the old woman's head, and she collapsed lifelessly. Murder. Someone screamed, and in an instant everyone fled in panic. Lin Dong watched coldly, moving slowly toward Building 5 with the panicked crowd. After so many days, order was finally beginning to crumble. In the face of survival, all kindness and the light of humanity would vanish completely. Today's murder would be the beginning of chaos. What are you staring at? Rob them all. Liang Ming, though it was his first kill, had the mental fortitude of a thug. He barked at his two underlings and charged at the nearest person. He was completely berserk, not caring whether the person had food, just killing first. Inspired by their leader's ferocity, the two underlings also began a Ling Shui. The moment Liang Ming killed someone, hurriedly ran home, not even stopping to pick up her luxury bags or ID card. Wang Sheng was dragging Shen Wanyue as they fled, but with everyone running, the pampered couple was soon knocked down. Honey, honey. Shen Wanyue was terrified, her legs too weak to get up. Wife, get up. Wang Sheng desperately tried to pull her up, but he was also starving and couldn't manage. Seeing Liang Ming charging toward them with a knife, Wang Sheng gritted his teeth. Wife, wait for me. They'll find help. He let go and ran off without looking back. Honey, honey, save me. Shen Wanyue was stunned. She never dreamed her newlywed husband would abandon her. Seeing the thug about to rush over, she burst. Lin Dong saw this and immediately rushed over to help her up. This was his prey. He couldn't let her die like this. Come with me. Feeling his strong, powerful arm, Shen Wanyue realized it was Lin Dong who had saved her, and her heart swelled with gratitude. Liang Ming killed indiscriminately, hacking at whoever was closest until everyone had fled the underground garage. Only then did the three brothers stop. Looking at the 7 or 8 bodies on the ground, and the wounded clutching severed arms and legs, and wailing, Liang Ming, his face covered in blood, let out a sinister laugh and killed them all. Haha, boss, that was awesome. This tactic really works. The two underlings quickly scoured the underground garage and gathered plenty of food. Their plan was simple: come down, kill people, and rob them. Everyone else would be so scared they'd flee, leaving their stall goods behind for the taking. Liang Ming estimated that the food they'd stolen would last the three of them about 2 days. But it would be harder to rob again. People would be too scared to leave their locked rooms. To get more food, they'd have to find a way to break in. Let's head back. Just then, one of the underlings ran over with an ID card in hand, a lecherous grin on his face. Boss, I found something good. Liang Ming took it and glanced at it, his eyes lighting up. What a beautiful woman. This was an ID photo. Any woman who relied on beauty filters and makeup to go out would be exposed in front of her ID photo. Liang Ming took it and glanced at it, his eyes lighting up. What a beautiful woman. This was an ID photo. Any woman who relied on beauty filters and makeup to go out would be exposed in front of her ID photo. As she might be, he had no idea which building or unit she lived in. The younger thug who found the ID card, Zhang Peng, winked and said cheerfully, boss, I haven't touched a woman in days. This top tier one is a must. Liang Ming chuckled, no rush. Let's first take the food back and make a tool to break doors. Then we'll knock on every door until we find her. Besides, there are plenty of women in this community, hee-haw. The three of them went home with lecherous grins. After taking Shen Wanyue away, Lin Dong blocked the door of the emergency exit before returning to Building 5, the 3rd floor. Only when she saw her own doorstep did Shen Wanyue finally have the strength to stand steady. She immediately broke free from Lin Dong and furiously pounded on the door. Wang Sheng opened the door. You coward, how could you have the face to abandon your wife and run home alone? Open the door. Her voice was loud and frantic. Lin Dong chuckled and opened his own door, leaning against the doorframe with his arms crossed, watching the show. Wang Sheng, trembling and hiding inside, heard his wife's voice. He finally peeked through the peephole, saw only Lin Dong and his wife, and mustered the courage to open the door. Xiao Yueyu, you're okay. Come in quickly, or those guys might come back, Wang Sheng said, as if he hadn't just abandoned his wife, and hurriedly tried to pull her inside. Shen Wanyue was not pleased. She shook off her husband's arm and pointed at him, cursing, Wang Sheng, are you even a man? What about all those vows you made to me before? When danger comes, you abandon me and run away. I must have been blind to marry you, Wu. As she spoke, she started crying. Seeing Lin Dong watching from the side, Wang Sheng's expression darkened. He forced a smile and said, it's like this, Xiao Yu, where I wasn't scared. I went to find help, but nobody was willing to help. I really had no choice. I came back to get tools to rescue you. You have to believe me, Xiao Yu. Then why did you lock the door? Shen Wanyue's question was a killing blow. Wang Sheng was completely speechless. Shen Wanyue continued, crying, all the food and drink at home are gone. I even lost my gold bracelet earlier. What am I supposed to do? Wu. I'm still young. I don't want to starve to death with you. At this moment, Shen Wanyue was utterly helpless. Wang Sheng was equally helpless. Even though he prided himself as a social elite with an annual salary of hundreds of thousands, he had no solution for this situation. Suddenly, Wang Sheng noticed Lin Dong, who was holding back laughter and watching the drama, and finally realized something was off. This kid looked really well off. His complexion was ruddy, showing no signs of hunger. Lin Dong, do you have any food at your place? Wang Sheng asked tentatively. Lin Dong admitted honestly, yes. And a lot of it. At this, even Shen Wanyue stopped crying, her eyes lighting up. Great Lin Dong, can you share some food with us? Lin Dong flashed a bright smile. Of course not you. Lin Dong pulled a can of cola from his pocket, opened it, took a swig, and let out a satisfied burp. Burp. Drinking ice-cold cola in winter is quite refreshing. Wang Sheng and his wife were staring wide-eyed, their dry mouths involuntarily moistening. They were drooling. This stuff was something you ignored before the apocalypse, but couldn't afford after. This also proved that Lin Dong had a huge stash of supplies. Who else would casually show off with cola? Lin Dong, listen, we're all neighbors, Wang Sheng said, with a flattering smile. As the saying goes, a close neighbor is better than a distant relative. If you're willing to share some food after the disaster is over, I'll get you a job at my company. How about that? I'll give you a monthly salary of 6,000, no 8,000. Lin Dong sneered. Idiot. This guy still hadn't faced reality. Seeing that the cola in his hand had frozen into ice after just one sip, Lin Dong helplessly tossed it back into his room and pulled out another can to drink. Wang Sheng and his wife's eyes were already green, with envy, more convinced than ever that Lin Dong had plenty of supplies. Shen Wanyue bit her lip. Lin Dong, how about this? We're willing to pay a bottle of water for 100, anything edible, well, pay 10 times the price, okay? Lin Dong sneered again. You're an idiot too. Wang Sheng and his wife were furious, but dared not speak. Then, what would it take for you to share some food? Wang Sheng asked helplessly. Lin Dong narrowed his eyes and smiled slightly, looking at Shen Wanyue. How about this? My place has been a mess lately. I need a woman to help clean up. I can hire sister-in-law as my maid. She'll come to my place from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day, taking care of my daily needs. Payment. They'll provide sister-in-law with 3 meals a day and allow her to take home 1 loaf of bread and 1 bottle of mineral water each day. How about that? Shen Wanyue flushed with anger. Lin Dong, you're too much. Why should I clean your place? You're looking down on me. They were all adults. The implications were clear without being spelled out. Wang Sheng was also angry, but he kept some rationality and didn't act. He frowned. Lin Dong, that's definitely not acceptable. How about this? They'll clean your place with your sister-in-law. We'll make it spotless. Lin Dong shrugged. My place doesn't welcome men. If you're not happy with it, forget it. With that, after all, he had food, drink, and warmth. He had all the time in the world to play. Wang Sheng and his wife looked at each other, then Shen Wanyue exploded again. Wang Sheng abandoning me and running away. This isn't over between us. She stormed back home, and Wang Sheng had to hurriedly console her. At night, Lin Dong woke up and decided to cook hot pot. He had tripe, lamb, shrimp paste, pork, aorta, and everything. Inside room 302, after their argument, Wang Sheng and his wife fell into silence again. Arguing consumed energy, and with all the food and drink at home gone, further quarreling was useless. Suddenly, Shen Wanyue sniffed. Strange, why do I smell hot pot? Is it an illusion? Wang Sheng also sniffed, greatly alarmed. It really is the smell of hot pot. They looked at each other, already starving, and now the aroma made them even hungrier. Wang Sheng quietly opened the door and confirmed the smell was coming from Lin Dong's place. His mind started working. Honey, maybe you could go work for Lin Dong. Shen Wanyue's eyes bulged wide as she stared at her husband in disbelief. Wang Sheng, do you even know what you're saying? That day her husband had abandoned her to flee alone, and now at night, he was asking her to go work for Lin Dong. Wasn't that just offering her up to sleep with him? An indescribable wave of disappointment and icy cold swept through her, leaving her incapable of even anger. Wang Sheng knew full well what it meant to send his wife to work for Lin Dong, but he was simply too hungry. In his 20-plus years of life, he had never before experienced such extreme hunger that even the will to argue had vanished. Earlier that day, he had still hoped to trade for supplies, but now that hope was utterly dashed. His only chance to survive was to rely on his wife's labor to earn him a piece of bread. Don't get upset, Xiaoya. You'll just be cleaning his room. If Lin Dong dares to harm you, scream, and I'll rush in to save you. Shen Wanyue had no energy left for a quarrel. The cold in her heart was far more piercing than the physical chill. Was this what they meant by grief beyond words? She recalled the past. Her husband had held a respectable social status, had been gentle and courteous, and had been so attentive to her that friends and family considered him the perfect husband. But when disaster truly struck, she finally saw Wang Sheng's true colors. Cowardly as a mouse, heartless and faithless, willing to give away his own wife for a bite of food. And on top of that, he still tried to cloak himself in a mask of hypocrisy. Seeing his wife like this, Wang Sheng hastily explained, Xiaoya, I'm not lying to you, you have to believe. Remember the happy person's retreat principle I told you about? We're happy people, so if we just give in a little, we'll. So you'd give away your own wife too? Shen Wanyue's tears fell again. Wasn't this so-called happy person's retreat principle just Wang Sheng's excuse for cowardice? If he had the ability, he could have robbed Lin Dong instead of letting both of them go hungry. No, that's not it. Why won't you listen? What I mean is, Wang Sheng tried to explain further. Shen Wanyue had already struggled to her feet, her eyes icy as she stared at him. Fine. I'll go. With that, she walked toward the door. Wang Sheng reached out as if to stop her, but then hesitated. Noticing that her husband made no move to block her, Shen Wanyue's heart completely died. Knock knock knock. Lin Dong was eating meat with one hand and enjoying an ice-cold beer with the other. Hearing the knock, a faint, enigmatic smile crossed his lips as he went to open the door. Lin Dong, I'll be your maid. Shen Wanyue got straight to the point. The rich aroma of hot pot that hit her face slowly revived her utterly deadened heart. Perhaps being with Lin Dong wasn't such a bad choice. At least she could survive. But oddly, why was Lin Dong dressed so lightly? Wasn't he cold? Lin Dong glanced at Shen Wanyue, then at the conflicted Wang Sheng behind her, and tossed the latter a piece of bread and a bottle of water. Thank you, thank you. Wang Sheng took them, eagerly tore open the wrapper without a second thought, and wolfed it down. Come in, sister-in-law. Lin Dong stepped aside. Shen Wanyue, seeing the steaming hot pot in the living room, could no longer hold back her reserve and walked in. Xiaya, don't worry, if anything happens just call. Bang. The door slammed shut. The moment she entered, Shen Wanyue was stunned. It was so warm. To keep out the cold, she was wearing at least 7 or 8 layers, but as soon as she stepped inside, it felt like she had gone from the Arctic to the equator. Why was this place so warm? There was no electricity, was there? In my home, you don't need to wear so many layers, Lin Dong said indifferently, taking his seat back at the dining table to continue eating his hot pot. Why was this place so warm? There was no electricity, was there? In my home, you don't need to wear so many layers, Lin Dong said indifferently. Lin Dong raised his head coldly and suddenly sneered, forgotten your place. Call me master. You. Shen Wanyue was about to flare up, but the gnawing pain of hunger in her stomach returned. Thinking of how her husband hadn't even shared a single bite of the bread, he got her eyes reddened again. She was a member of the social elite, and now she had to call a lowlife from the bottom of society master. But what could she do? Her stomach was a traitor. It kept Master. Lin Dong nodded, picked up an A4 sheet covered in writing, and tossed it over. These are the maid's rules. Make sure you follow them carefully. Shen Wanyue picked it up in confusion, her beautiful eyes widening instantly. Maid's Code of Conduct 1. In the master's home, you are not allowed to stand. All actions must be performed kneeling. If violated, no food for 1 day. 2. You must bow when the master returns. If violated, no food for 1 day. 3. When the master is the only male present, the maid must wear a special maid uniform. If violated, no food for 1 day. 10. The master's words are absolute authority. If you talk back, death. Was this a maid's code? It was a complete denial of human rights. Shen Wanyue tore the A4 sheet to shreds on the spot and angrily pulled her clothes back on. This is too much. You can't humiliate people like this. With that, she turned and walked away. Lin Dong watched coldly, drew a golden desert eagle, and aimed it at her back. A disobedient maid, there was no need to keep her. But just as Shen Wanyue reached the door and was about to open it, her hand froze. Once she stepped outside, the constant temperature furnace's range, the biting cold would hit her again. She had already gradually adapted to the -40-degree cold, but now that she had experienced warmth again, returning to the cold filled her body and mind with resistance. This resistance was even stronger than her aversion to Lin Dong's maid's code. Just like that saying online, I could have endured the darkness if I had never seen the Lin Dong watched indifferently as Shen Wanyue stood hesitantly at the door, one hand holding the gun, the other eating hot pot, waiting. 5 minutes later, Shen Wanyue relented. She didn't want to go back to that freezing home. She didn't want to face that cowardly, hypocritical husband again. She didn't want to be hungry anymore. Thump. Shen Wanyue finally convinced herself, and her once proud head struck the floor heavily. Master, I was wrong. In that moment, she cast aside all her pride, willing to stay in room 301 just to survive. Since you're staying, follow the rules properly. Since it's your first offense, I'll forgive you this once. Lin Dong smiled, put away his gun, and handed her a set of clothes. These were made from thermal underwear produced by the system, both warm and attractive. Tears fell onto the floor, but Shen Wanyue could only resign herself. Wang Sheng, after finishing the bread, couldn't help but press his ear against Lin Dong's door to listen for any sound. However, the soundproofing was too good, and he couldn't hear anything for a while, only enduring the aroma of hot pot wafting from inside. A single piece of bread was far from enough to fill his stomach. Lin Dong, don't let me find an opportunity, or I'll kill you. Wang Sheng, with a ferocious expression, gritted his teeth and went home. Lin Dong smoked a cigarette, feeling refreshed. The power level obtained from the system had comprehensively strengthened his physical capabilities. Truly comprehensive enhancement. After Shen Wanyue finished washing up and came out, Lin Dong had already gone back to his room to sleep, leaving only a pile of household trash in the living room and a hot pot with just a little food left on the dining table. Shen Wanyue recalled the ordeal she had just endured and couldn't help but want to cry again. However, she crawled to the dining table, finished all the leftovers, and even drank most of the hot pot broth, which she had previously considered utterly inedible. Only then did she finally feel a sense of fullness she hadn't experienced in a long time. After finishing the meal, the resistance in Shen Wanyue's heart mostly dissipated. She strictly adhered to the maid's code and began to tidy up the room. Once everything was clean, she curled up at the edge of the sofa and fell asleep. She had made up her mind. Lin Dong's place had food and warmth. It was simply paradise. As for dignity, chastity, and such, they were nothing compared to having surviving. That was the most important thing. The only thing that puzzled her was that she had no idea where Lin Dong kept his food. The kitchen and refrigerator were empty. Could it be in the bedroom? But she absolutely dared not enter Lin Dong's bedroom. Besides, the place was too comfortable. The 26-degree temperature was truly a paradise, and there was no need. It could only be said that Shen Wanyue was truly lucky. After returning to his bedroom, Lin Dong had set up a simple tripwire mechanism aiming the muzzle of his golden desert eagle at the door. If anyone barged in, they would trip the trigger and meet their death. At midnight, the rewards were issued again. Ding. Today's check-in rewards options are as follows. 1. Nuclear-powered generator, unlimited energy. 2. Battle made function activated. 3. RPG rocket launcher equipped with 1,000 rockets. 4. A pair of socks that will never smell when worn. Lin Dong sprang up like a carp, looking at the system panel in surprise. Damn. Battle made. What the hell is that? Without a second thought, Lin Dong chose option 2. Although he also wanted the rocket launcher, given the current situation, a pistol was more than enough. The rocket launcher would be like using a cannon to kill a mosquito. He would choose it later when it appeared again. After making the selection, the system panel suddenly flashed with a light, and then an additional tab appeared. Clicking at Shen Wanyue's information was clearly listed. Made 1, Shen Wanyue, system rating 82, current power level 1, made outfit none. Lin Dong pinched his chin deep in thought. Everything else was easy to understand, but what the hell was this made outfit? Surely it wasn't the kind you tailor yourself, so it must be a system item. At the top of the system interface, there was a small toggle icon with text beside it. The host can control whether the maid can become pregnant. Needless to think about it. Of course it was turned off. He didn't want to become a father. Lin Dong was quite satisfied with this little feature. Currently, Shen Wanyue's power level was level 1, the level of an ordinary person. However, the method of improvement was different from Lin Dong's own reliance on system rewards. It was controlled by Lin Dong, whom so diligent work could increase the maid's experience, and with enough experience, she could level up. Why the hell? Why can the maid level up by lying around while I have to rely on random system rewards? Lin Dong couldn't help but curse. But the system was considerate enough to give a guarantee. The maid's level cap depended on the host's level cap, only half of Lin Dong. That is, Lin Dong was currently level 6, and through hard work, he could at most raise Shen Wanyue to level 3. That's more like it. Lin Dong then fell asleep peacefully. That night, Wang Sheng tossed and turned, unable to sleep at all. At 8 in the morning, Wang Sheng couldn't help but knock on Lin Dong's door, dark circles under his eyes. The door opened, and Lin Dong opened it with a sinister smile. Lin Dong, I wanted to ask how Xiaoye is doing. She stayed here all night yesterday, shouldn't she go back? As Wang Sheng spoke, he looked up past Lin Dong and saw his wife in the living room, already dressed in a down jacket. Jealousy and anger instantly surged within him, threatening to explode. But he still didn't dare. Lin Dong slapped his forehead. Oh, I nearly forgot about that. Sister-in-law did a great job cleaning my place. I'm very satisfied. Then he turned to look at Shen Wanyue. Sister-in-law, you worked hard all night and must be tired. You should go back and rest. Shen Wanyue heard the implication in Lin Dong's words and didn't dare meet her husband's eyes. No, I still have the kitchen and bathroom to clean. I won't go back today. Honey, it's cold outside. You should go home quickly. Lin Dong smiled at the corners of his mouth. This maid was quite sensible. Wang Sheng knew exactly what that meant. His chest heaved violently. He was about to explode with rage. He glared fiercely at his wife, wanting to erupt, but in the next second, Lin Dong tossed out a piece of bread and a bottle of water. Here, this is for today. The anger in his heart was instantly extinguished by more than half. He nodded and bowed. Thank you, thank you. Since she hasn't finished cleaning, let Xiaoye continue her work. I won't disturb you too. At that moment, Wang Sheng had eyes only for the food and water. After closing the door, Shen Wanyue hurriedly followed the maid's code and knelt down. See that? Your husband came here not for you, but only for food, Lin Dong said with a chuckle. Shen Wanyue bowed her head even lower. Her heart ached a little, but not as much as she had imagined. It seemed she was gradually getting used to staying at Lin. Back home, Wang Sheng wolfed down the bread, his eyes filled with viciousness. He knew his own wife well. Her appearance earlier clearly indicated that Lin Dong had taken her again that morning, which infuriated him. You bitch. After just one night, you're already obedient. I think you've been wanting to go to Lin Dong all along. Damn it, no, always being under Lin Dong's thumb won't do. I have to find a way to get all his food. With that thought, Wang Sheng quietly left the house. In the safety passage of Building 5, many survivors from the building had gathered. Wang Sheng felt a chill in his heart. Because the total number of living people in this entire building was less than 100, the rest had basically frozen to death, starved to death, or been poisoned. Wang Sheng walked to the highest step and said, Everyone, the situation is critical now. I think we should unite. Yesterday, our entire residential complex held a trade fair in the underground garage, but Liang Meng robbed us. Now no one dares to go to the underground garage, and our lives will only become harder. So my suggestion is that the surviving families should form an alliance sharing resources and interests to deal with this crisis together. Someone frowned and said, "Don't just talk empty words. Everyone is hungry. How can we share resources with you?" Wang Sheng already had a plan in mind. "I think the first thing we should do is have each family send one able-bodied young man to form a guard team. Starting from 101 on the first floor, we'll break into every door and search for supplies. For any household without living people, we'll take all the supplies. Since Liang Meng dares to kill, we can't just sit back and wait for death. After all, the safety door of the garage alone can't stop them. So this supply collection team must act collectively. Even if we run into Liang Meng, there's no need to fear. There are only 3 people, and we're over a dozen. How can we be afraid of them?" When these words were spoken, everyone nodded in agreement. Everyone had been frightened by Liang Meng's killing yesterday, but they forgot that he was only 3 people. As long as they united, there was nothing to fear. Another person asked, "How will the collected supplies be divided?" "Those who join the guard team will share equally." A woman asked, "What if there are no able-bodied young men in the family? I only have my daughter and myself. My husband. I think he was poisoned to death outside." An old woman also said yes. "I think this distribution method is unfair. My husband and I are both over 60 with limited mobility and hardly daring to move. What about us? The best way is that every family should get a share of the supplies you plunder with priority for the elderly." Wang Sheng's eyes flashed with cruelty. "You old hag." Before he could finish, a middle-aged man became displeased. "I don't care about your life or death. Let's do it Wang Sheng's way. Only those who contribute get to eat. Those unwilling to contribute. Humph. Women, if you're willing to sleep with me, maybe you'll give you a share. But if you don't want to give anything, then just wait to die." Wang Sheng couldn't help but applaud inwardly. That's right. These words stirred up chaos with accusations flying. What kind of talk is that? You're taking advantage of the crisis, I'm telling you. Exactly. Don't think we women are easy to bully. We can hold up half the sky, you know. Look at yourself. You're ugly, but you dream big. The middle-aged man's face darkened. Suddenly he grabbed the head of the middle-aged woman who had been shouting the loudest and smashed it repeatedly against the wall. Again and again, blood splattered everywhere. The survival pressure of these past days had finally transformed into brutality. The man was ferocious, beating the woman to death. This scene stunned everyone. Over a dozen men exchanged glances as if some shackle had been broken and Pandora's box was fully opened. "Brothers, grab all these women. Keep the pretty ones, beat the old and ugly ones to death to save food." The man waved his hand and chaos erupted. Wang Sheng was dumbfounded. How had things turned out like this? In his plan, once the guard team was formed, he could threaten Lin Dong to hand over the food, thus saving his own. He had ultimately underestimated the evil of human nature. With his cowardly personality, he could only cover his head and flee, stumbling back home. The entire Building 5 became a living hell. The men's strength manifested fully. Those with tools used them, those without used their fists. All women who didn't meet their looks were beaten to death alive. "No, let me go home, my daughter is waiting for me." "Murder. Luli'll call the police and have you arrested." "Help me. I won't eat anymore, okay? Please don't hit me." The wailing continued. Shen Wanyue turned with confusion. Master, it sounds like a commotion outside. What's happening?" Lin Dong was unconcerned. "Who cares? You just focus on what you need to do. As for the rest, don't worry about it." Finally, after more than 10 minutes, several men drenched in blood stood in the corridor, staring at each other with wild smiles on their faces. "Brothers, from now on this Building 5 belongs to us." The man who started the violence was named Zhu Feng. As soon as he spoke, the other men agreed. "Hey, where's Wang Sheng? Where did he run off to?" someone suddenly asked. Zhu Feng looked around and waved his hand. "Forget it, he probably ran home. Starting today, let's break into every door, capture all the pretty girls, and centralize all the food we find for equal distribution. Since that bastard Wang Sheng dared to run, he gets nothing. If we run into him, well, just beat him to death." Lu Li approached, grinning lewdly. "Brother Zhu, you probably don't know, but Wang Sheng's wife is the prettiest flower in Building 5. She's so delicate. How about we grab his wife first?" This remark made several men's eyes light up. Clearly, they had long coveted Shen Wanyue. Zhu Feng slapped him on the head. "You little bastard, it's so cold, and you're still thinking about playing. Aren't you afraid of freezing into an ice sculpture? First focus on getting food. Once we're full, we'll chop up the furniture for firewood and warmth. Then none of the women in this building will escape our grasp." Everyone nodded. By now, almost everyone had been hungry for days. The great purge of Building 5 had begun, but it was not an isolated case. Liang Meng had set a precedent for all the men in Jiyuan residential complex. In other buildings, men had already started uniting, going door to door for food, and women throwing everything into chaos. In Building 3, Apartment 403, Ling Shui lived alone. She was a female streamer who usually loved snacking, so she had stockpiled quite a bit of snacks, allowing her to hold out longer than others. But now Ling Xue's doomsday was approaching. In Building 3, over 20 men had formed a robbery squad breaking into doors one by one. The outcome was, through the peephole, Ling Xue saw the door of apartment 401 being forced open. The man of the house tried to protect his wife with a knife, but they beat him to death with clubs. Then they burned the furniture and assaulted the woman on the spot. Even with the soundproofing of the security door, Ling Xue could hear the woman's heart-wrenching screams, and she trembled with fear. What should she do? Ling Xue knew she was far more beautiful than that woman. Once these men discovered her fate would be even worse. Suddenly Ling Xue remembered the man she had met in the underground garage yesterday. He said he lived in Building 5, apartment 301. She had to find a way to. Seeing the chaos outside, Ling Xue knew they would soon break into her home, so she rushed to the balcony. Fortunately, it was no longer snowing today. Carefully sweeping the snow off the window, she immediately opened it and poked her head out. Building 3, where she lived, was not far from Building 5, separated by only about 20 meters. Through the window, she could see Lin Dong's balcony. Without a second thought, she threw out all sorts of bottles and jars from her home, hoping to alert Lin Dong by smashing his window. But as a weak young woman, her aim was terrible. She missed many times, growing more anxious by the moment. Hurry, I must hit it. Finally, a bottle of skincare product struck the glass with precision. The glass didn't break, but the loud noise caught the attention of Lin Dong, who was instructing Shen Wanyue on maid duties. Lin Dong stepped onto the balcony, frowned, and spotted Ling Xue waving at him. Come save me. They're about to break in. Her voice was extremely loud, quickly drawing the attention of others. Did I hear a woman's voice? The man who was assaulting someone in room 401 stood up in confusion. On the sofa, a burly man was smoking, his eyes narrowing sharply as he turned to look toward the door. It seemed the sound came from this floor. The man was Zheng Dajuan, the de facto leader of Building 3. A lackey hurried over. Boss, the sound came from room 403. There's a woman in there. Zheng Dajuan stubbed out his cigarette and rose slowly. Then let's force the door and see. I'm curious who she's calling for help. A lackey pointed at the woman on the floor, already barely breathing, and asked, Boss, what about her? Looking at the woman, rolling her eyes, her breaths growing fainter, Zheng Dajuan said helplessly, Are you all so starved for women that you haven't seen one in 800? Looking at the woman, rolling her eyes, her breaths growing fainter, Zheng Dajuan said helplessly, Are you all so starved for women that you haven't seen one in 800 years? Constitution was too weak. All right. Next time we find a decent one, take it slow. Zheng Dajuan waved his hand and led his men to room 403. Break it open. Click, crack. Soon the sound of the door being forced came, and Ling Xue grew even more terrified, immediately crying out to Lin Dong for help. They're coming. Quick. Please save me. Lin Dong, however, was completely unhurried. He crossed his arms and said with a grin, Save you. Do you know what you'll have to pay, eh? Ling Xue was speechless, her eyes reddening. At this critical moment, this man was still in the mood to flirt with her. As long as you save me, I'll be your girlfriend. But Lin Dong slowly shook his head. I don't need a girlfriend. Ling Xue was dumbfounded. Then what do you want? The next moment, Shen Wanyue, wearing a special-made outfit, slowly came to Lin Dong's feet. This scene utterly stunned Ling Xue. Whoa, playing this wild. Seeing Shen Wanyue's attire, Ling Xue was shocked. Is she a superhuman? Isn't she cold? Lin Dong smiled, stroked Shen Wanyue's hair, and looked at Ling Xue. I can save you, but the price is the same as hers. Crack, crack, crack. Soon the door was forced open. Zheng Dajuan and his men surged in, spotting Ling Xue leaning on the balcony calling for help, as well as various posters and photos of Ling Xue inside the room. Her perfect beauty and figure excited everyone. Whoa, brothers, we hit the jackpot. She's a real gem. Ha, how did I never notice there was such a hot chick in our building? Holy shit. She's a female streamer. Look, there's streaming equipment. Hearing the lewd laughter behind her, Ling Xue was on the verge of tears. You? Don't come near me. Zheng Dajuan strode forward, hands in his pockets, approaching the balcony. Beauty, just come with us obediently. Don't worry, I'll make sure they take good care of you. Ling Xue's legs went weak with fear. She didn't believe a word he said. The sister in room 401 had screamed so miserably it must have hurt terribly. Turning to look at Lin Dong, she saw Shen Wanyue had already crawled back inside, and Lin Dong seemed about to close the window and return to his room. In utter despair, Ling Xue finally shouted, I agree. He'll do anything. He'll be like her if I have to. If she went with this man, it might only be him. But if she was caught by the men in this building, who knows how many there would be. She would die. Shen Wanyue heard this and pursed her lips slightly. A new recruit, huh? Who are you calling for help? Zheng Dajuan asked suspiciously, quickly approaching Ling Xue. Just as his large hand was about to grab Ling Xue, he was horrified to see a young man in the opposite building climbing onto the windowsill, assuming a stance to leap. What was he doing? Jumping to his death. But the next second, with a loud bang, Lin Dong explosively kicked off, soaring across the gap between the two buildings straight toward the balcony of room 403. Holy shit. Zheng Dajuan was stunned. Then came a size 44 foot hitting him squarely in the face without any dodging. The violent force sent him flying crashing into a crowd of people. Damn. Boss, are you okay? Ouch. My back's about to break. Who kicked the boss? Fuck. A flying man. Lin Dong landed steadily, secretly amazed. With only level 6 strength was he already this powerful. He had suddenly felt a surge of confidence believing he could make the jump, and he did. The system was amazing. That was over 20 meters. A true flying man indeed. Ling Xue's mind went blank as she stared at Lin Dong who had landed right in. How did he get here? Zheng Dajuan struggled to his feet looking at Lin Dong with some fear. But thinking of his 20-plus men all armed with knives, he regained some confidence. Kid trying to play the hero? Don't you see how many of us there are? Boy, stab him to death. At his command the men pulled out cleavers, fruit knives, and other tools ready to kill Lin Dong. Bring it on. I was just wondering how strong my destructive power is now. Lin Dong grinned and licked his lips, choosing not to use a gun. He clenched his fist and slammed it into the nearest man. Slap. The force of the punch was immense, exploding the man's head like a bursting watermelon. Flesh and blood sprayed onto many faces, and some even swallowed it in shock. Everyone was stunned, skidding to a halt, staring at Lin Dong in horror. Zheng Dajuan's jaw nearly dropped. Damn, this guy really was a superhuman. What kind of destructive power was that? Ling Xue felt the warm blood on her face, rolled her eyes, and fainted. Lin Dong looked at his own fist in amazement, then picked up the fallen cleaver, sneering at the cowardly men. Ladies and gentlemen, the Deliver Man is here to send you off to the afterlife. Lin Dong's words now sounded like the whispers of a demon. Run, someone shouted. The newly formed team instantly fell into chaos, all of them scrambling. Zheng Dajuan was the fastest to flee. But with over 20 people trying to squeeze through a single small door, escape was far from easy. A scene of utter pain. Lin Dong, however, cared nothing for the chaos. He grabbed a cleaver and began a brutal slaughter. With each swing, arms and legs flew through the air. Before long, Ling Xue's home had turned into a living hell. Only half of them managed to escape. Lin Dong walked out of room 403. Seeing that the corridor was now completely empty, he discarded the blunted cleaver. Help! Help! The barely alive woman from room 401, whose door stood wide open, crawled to the threshold, struggling to plead for Lin Dong's. Lin Dong glanced at her. She was a woman of moderate beauty, appearing to be in her 30s or 40s. If not for the apocalypse, she might still have retained some charm. But sadly, she was already broken, likely in her final moments of lucidity. Save my daughter. The woman looked at Lin Dong, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Not interested, Lin Dong said, and turned to leave. The light in the woman's eyes faded. She slammed her head hard against the floor, her life slowly ebbing away, and with difficulty uttered a few words that made Lin Dong pause. Jiangxing Science University. Before she could finish, she breathed her last. Jiangxing University of Science and Technology. Lin Dong narrowed his eyes. This piqued his interest. His ex-girlfriend Zhao Yufei was also from that university. Lin Dong looked at the woman's corpse, sighed, and stepped into her home. Her husband had already fallen in a pool of blood, his eyes wide open in death. Soon Lin Dong found a photo of the family of 3. His eyes lit up. Because the woman's daughter was exceptionally beautiful, radiating youthful vitality with adorable dimples when she smiled. Lin Dong judged that she was at least a campus beauty, likely ranking higher than Shen Wanyue, a suitable candidate for a maidservant. He also learned the girl's name, Chen Yunqi. She was 19 years old, a sophomore at the School of Media, Jiangxing University of Science and Technology. Good. Once I have the ability to leave, I'll head to that university. Hope she hasn't died or been defiled. And Zhao Yufei, you better not die either. Putting away Chen Yunxi's photo, Lin Dong returned to room 403 and shook Ling Xue awake. Ling Xue blinked groggily, and the first thing she saw was Lin Dong drenched in blood, and her home turned into a hellish scene. Lin Dong slapped her. What's all that screaming for? It's annoying. Ling Xue snapped back to reality, staring at Lin Dong in terror, trembling all over. Come on, follow me. Lin Dong got up and walked out. Ling Xue gazed at the corpses scattered around, feeling nauseous and weak in the knees. But Lin Dong had already left the room. Terrified, she scrambled on all fours to follow him. This place was no longer livable. She had to stick with him. This time Lin Dong didn't show off by jumping off the building. He took the stairs properly, intending to go back through the underground garage. After stepping out, Ling Xue also saw the corpse of the woman from room 401. A pang of sorrow flickered in her heart. In the apocalypse, a woman had only 2 choices: rely on a powerful man or be toyed with by a group of men. There was no other possibility. Dignity, chastity, values. Before power, they were utterly worthless. Thinking this, Ling Xue felt fortunate to have latched onto Lin Dong. Otherwise, she would have ended up worse than that woman. Suddenly, many things became clear in her mind, and she found strength in her limbs, hurrying to catch up with Lin Dong. As soon as they reached the underground garage, damn it, that bunch is actually smart. They formed teams in every building. Kept us from looting a single one. Liang Ming said, rubbing a bruise on his head, looking thoroughly disgusted. Earlier he had taken 2 of his brothers to rob other buildings only to run into a counterattack by over a dozen men. They barely escaped. He never realized that it was his own initial killing and looting that had made everyone else band together for self-defense, leading to the current situation. Zhang Peng's arm had been dislocated. Grimacing with pain, he asked, "Boss, what do we do now?" "How the hell should I know?" Liang Ming cursed. He was truly at a loss. Now even the residents of Building 7, where they lived, were showing signs of uniting. That would make the 3 of them public enemies. Zhang Peng was about to say something else when he heard footsteps. He quickly looked over. "Who's there?" Lin Dong naturally spotted them as well. "Just passing through," he said flatly. Ling Shui recognized them and immediately hid behind Lin Dong, afraid of being passing through. Liang Ming was stunned. Everyone in the neighborhood knew the infamous reputation of the 3 brothers. "You've got some nerve, kid." Zhang Peng, however, noticed the woman behind Lin Dong. His eyes lit up. "Boss, that's the woman from the ID card." "It's her." Liang Ming got excited. "Really? What a stroke of luck. We've been getting the short end all day, and now we run into a beautiful woman here, huh? Our luck isn't bad after all." The 3 of them surrounded them. Ling Shui was terrified, trying to cover her face with her hat. "Don't hide, beautiful lady. Let your big brother have a look." Liang Ming leered, reaching out to grab her face. He seemed to completely ignore Lin Dong's presence. Slap. Lin Dong knocked his hand away expressionlessly. "Are you blind? Don't you see there's a man here?" Liang Ming withdrew his hand in pain and finally noticed Lin Dong. Though Lin Dong was tall and sturdy, what did that matter? The 3 brothers were ruthless killers. Zhang Peng noticed the blood on Lin Dong's clothes. He frowned, sensing something off, but said nothing. They could kill, so could others. But the blood was a lot. "Kid, him in a good mood today and don't feel like killing. Hand over the girl, and he'll let you live," Liang Ming said with a vicious grin. Lin Dong sighed. "I'm in a hurry. You insist on walking into your own death. Don't blame me." With that, he lashed out with his foot. Crack, crack. 3 consecutive sounds of bone breaking followed. After a second, Liang Ming and his 2 companions felt the searing pain. They all fell to their knees, clutching their groins, cold sweat pouring down. Son of a bitch. You fight dirty. Damn. It hurt so much. Did it shatter?" Ling Shui's eyes were practically sparkling. This man was really incredible. Lin Dong turned to her and suddenly pulled a golden desert eagle from his pocket, handing it to her. "Take care of them." "Huh?" Ling Shui was stunned. Killing hundreds of millions of people might be fine, but 3 living humans. That was too much to ask. "Hurry up. If you want to be my maidservant, you need to have the ability to kill. I don't keep useless pets." He forcefully shoved the gun into her hands. The golden desert eagle felt heavy in her hand, its icy metallic touch sending a chill through her fingers. Ling Shui instantly realized this was no toy. It was the real deal. "Point the muzzle at the target, place your index finger on the trigger, and keep your hand steady," Lin Dong instructed patiently. Ling Shui's face was filled with reluctance, yet when she met his sharp gaze, she dared not argue. Liang Ming, seeing Ling Shui pointing a gun at him, assumed it was a toy and couldn't help sneering. "Bitch, who are you trying to scare? I wasn't born yesterday. I've got my eyes on you. If you've got the balls, kill me. Otherwise, I'll show you real pain." Ling Shui froze for a moment, her fear vanishing, instantly replaced by a Lin Dong whispered in her ear, "You scum. Pull the trigger." Ling Shui bit her lip so hard it nearly bled. Though she was furious, the thought of killing a man still made her hesitate. "Ha ha, bitch, go on, shoot. Can't do it, huh? Don't worry, I've got a gun of my own here. They'll let you have a taste of it later." Bang. Suddenly driven by rage, Ling Shui pulled the trigger. The deafening roar echoed through the underground garage, and Liang Ming's head exploded in Zhang Peng and the other lackey were terrified. Ignoring their pain, they scrambled on all fours, trying to escape in a panic. Ling Shui stared blankly at the corpse before her, her hands trembling uncontrollably. Then she thought of the woman from apartment 401, how she had been helplessly tortured to death by a group of men. He had given her the power to fight back. She had to master it quickly. Otherwise, she would likely end up just like that woman. To her credit, Ling Shui's mindset shifted rapidly. She immediately chased after Zhang Peng, raised the gun, and fired. Bang! Because Zhang Peng was still crawling forward, the bullet only hit his thigh, sending him into agony. "Don't kill me, please." Bang! 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 One miss meant another shot. Ling Shui's expression grew increasingly frantic as she kept firing until Zhang Peng's body was riddled with bullets. "Enough. He's dead," Lin Dong said, nodding in satisfaction as he took back the gun. When she came to her senses, Ling Shui slowly began to accept the fact that she had killed someone. The urge to vomit overwhelmed her, and she turned aside to retch violently. Meanwhile, Lin Dong approached the last lackey. "Boss, sir, no. You're my fucking savior. Please don't kill me. I can be your dog. They'll bite anyone you want. Spare me, please." The lackey was sobbing in terror, his pants already wet. Lin Dong frowned, raised the gun, and shot him in the head without a second thought. "Men aren't fit to be my dogs." Then he waited calmly for Ling Shui to finish vomiting. After a long while, Ling Shui, now with nothing left to throw up, came before him with red-rimmed eyes. She wanted to say something, but dared not speak. Come on, let's go home. Lin Dong continued walking toward Building 5. Ling Shui gazed at the corpses on the ground, including the one Liang Meng had slashed to death yesterday, and her resolve slowly hardened. She had to survive no matter what. The men in Building 5 were busy with something else at the moment and didn't run into Lin Dong. As soon as she stepped inside, Ling Shui was stunned. On the dining table were all kinds of seafood feast, and beer, steaming hot rice, filled the air with its aroma. The room was clean and tidy, mingling the scent of smoke with a faint fragrance. Most importantly, it was so warm inside. What was going on? Shen Wanyue saw him return and immediately came to bow. Welcome home, master. Her voice was syrupy sweet. Only then did Ling Shui get a clear look at Shen Wanyue's face. She was utterly captivated. So beautiful. This is the new maid. Show her the rules. I don't like seeing mistakes, Lin Dong said with a nod, then walked to the table and began eating. Yes, master, Shen Wanyue replied, and turned to look at Ling Shui. She too was struck by the woman's stunning beauty. Such a gorgeous figure and aura, even surpassing her own. A sudden sense of crisis gripped Shen Wanyue. She had to assert her authority now, or she might lose all of the master's favor. Follow me. They'll take you to the bathroom first. With that, she crawled toward the bathroom. Ling Shui nodded dazedly and followed. But after just 2 steps, Shen Wanyue stopped and glared at her with a menacing expression. Once you're through this door, you're the master's maid. Rule number 1, without the master's permission, you are not allowed to stand. Ling Shui was startled by the other woman's harshness. She thought about storming out, but the memory of what had just happened, and the gun in Lin Dong's hand, held her back. Sorry. She bit her lip and imitated Shen Wanyue's posture. Lin Dong, eating the mantis shrimp that Shen Wanyue had already peeled, nodded in approval. It seemed Maid was adapting quickly. As a former elite of society, she was remarkably good at embracing her new identity. Worthy of praise. In the bathroom, Shen Wanyue helped Ling Shui wash up. Neither woman spoke a word. Sister, why is this place? Don't ask what you shouldn't. You must revere the master or you'll die without knowing how. Ling Shui fell silent. She couldn't understand what the woman had endured to become like this. Shen Wanyue looked at Ling Shui's figure, her sense of crisis growing stronger. Her scrubbing became increasingly rough, nearly causing Ling Shui to faint from the Sister, when do you think we'll be rescued? Ling Shui couldn't help asking. Shen Wanyue paused, then sighed. Don't ever say that again. Meeting the master is our rescue. Don't you understand what would happen to women like us without him? Ling Shui said nothing. She knew all too well. It had played out right before her eyes just half an hour ago. From now on, just follow me and live well here. Throw your old morals down the toilet. Surviving is all that matters. Shen Wanyue gave her a final warning, then began explaining the maid's rules one by one. Ling Shui listened, her face burning red. Half an hour later, Ling Shui followed Shen Wanyue out. Master, she's all clean. Lin Dong, who had just finished eating, tossed a lobster in front of her. Good job. This is your reward. Shen Wanyue was overjoyed. Thank you, master. Ling Shui watched with a hint of envy. In the apocalypse, no less, and she could still enjoy a hot lobster. This was incredible. Lin Dong turned to her and slowly broke into a smile. Maid 2, Ling Shui system score 85, current power level 1, maid outfit none. Lin Dong looked at the system panel data, nodding in satisfaction. It seemed not all streamers on Douyin were just beauty filters and high-tech tricks. Very smooth. The situation at Jiyuan community grew increasingly dire. In every building, a building king emerged, forming a violent organization akin to a gang that ruled the entire building. Women had become mere playthings for them. Throughout the day, from time to time, someone would choose to jump from the building, unable to bear the humiliation, leaving human-shaped holes in the snow-covered ground. But this was not the worst of it. Because the deep snow cushioned the fall, most didn't die immediately upon impact. Instead, they were trapped in the snow, either suffocating slowly or silently waiting for the poison to kill them. Cries and wails echoed incessantly, constantly assaulting the nerves. In Building 5, Zhu Feng gathered over a dozen people inside his room and began distributing supplies. Our haul today was pretty good. We broke into 23 homes and got 10 packs of noodles, 3 big bottles of water, 2 packs of huazi, and 14 packs of instant. Zhu Feng was delighted. These supplies were basically taken from homes with no survivors. He thanked them for dying on the first day of the apocalypse, not wasting resources. Today's harvest alone was enough to feed them for 2 full days. Besides the supplies, we also took more than 20 young women. Brothers, don't be polite tonight. As soon as he said that, the dozen or so men forming the guard team all got excited. Now they had food, drink, and women. How was this the apocalypse? It was paradise. One of the underlings asked, Boss, when are we going to grab Wang Sheng's wife for fun? None of the girls we caught today are as pretty as her. The others echoed in agreement. Yeah, boss, she's really a top-notch beauty. Let's grab her early so we can enjoy her sooner. Last month when Wang Sheng got married, I saw his wife from far away, and even secretly took a few photos as my screensaver. I keep hearing you guys talk about her, but I've never seen her. Is she really that beautiful? Why would I lie? She's even better than female stars on TV. As the saying goes, warmth and fullness breed lust. Previously everyone was hungry, so they didn't think much about that aspect. But now they could eat their fill with countless discarded clothes and furniture to burn for warmth. How could they fail to live up to the saying that men are creatures driven by their love? Even 𝑃 became interested. Alright, leave a few brothers to watch these women, and the rest of you come downstairs with me. 𝑃 recalled that he had once seen an extremely beautiful woman getting off the elevator on the 3rd floor. Her black stocking legs were simply stunning. His heart itched with desire. Room 301. Lin Dong was comfortably leaning back on the sofa enjoying a dessert after dinner. Come master, eat a grape, Ling Shui said with a seductive smile, picking a grape and holding it between her delicate red lips. Bitch, she's too good at this. Shen Wanyue ground her teeth in anger. Truly worthy of being a streamer. She was a professional pulling out all sorts of seductive tricks. Shen Wanyue was instantly outshone. No, if this continues, he'll lose favor. After a moment's thought, Shen Wanyue picked up the red wine from the coffee table. Master, please have some wine. She took a small sip and held it in her mouth. But as she was about to put the wine bottle back on the table, she carelessly failed to set it down properly, and the bottle began to tip over. Oh no. In the nick of time, without thinking, Shen Wanyue shot out her hand like lightning and caught the bottle. This happened extremely fast, but Lin Dong still noticed it, a faint, enigmatic smile curling at the corner of his mouth. Ling Shui praised, big sister, such quick reflexes, damn it, why didn't it fall? Then master won't like you anymore. Clearly the two women were already engaged in a covert rivalry. Shen Wanyue also stared blankly at her own hand, amazed at her reaction speed. Even before the apocalypse, when she was in perfect physical condition, she wouldn't have had such reflexes. Then Shen Wanyue quickly came to her senses, immediately placed the wine bottle back on the table, and performed an extremely practiced curtsy. Master, this almost made a mistake. Please punish me. After saying this, she looked up with a smile. Lin Dong looked speechless. Is this punishment even proper? It's only been one day, and you've already erupted with certain traits. Lin Dong pushed Ling Shui away and propped his chin on his hand, smiling. Have you noticed your own changes? Shen Wanyue snapped back to reality, recalling her own changes. It seemed that since the afternoon she had felt her strength increase greatly. She would accidentally snap chopsticks or crush teacups, things that were completely impossible. But could it be? Is it the power that master bestowed on me? Shen Wanyue was overjoyed. After all, although she had followed Lin Dong, and Lin Dong had plenty of supplies and was powerful, she still harbored some worries in her heart. She was still a weak woman. Without Lin Dong, she would be a lamb to the slaughter. Now she had it. And all of this likely came from her master. Lin Dong nodded. As long as you do your job as a maid, well, the power will naturally come. Work hard. He naturally saw through the open and covert struggle between the two women. If they had been together longer, they might even have reenacted the drama of Zhen Huanzhuan. However, he pretended not to know about it. Let them compete. Competition brings improvement. In the end, the beneficiary was always him. Now Shen Wanyue had only been upgraded to level 2, yet she already possessed strength and speed greater than an adult male. Where was his own limit? Shen Wanyue excitedly cowed out. Yes, master. In her mind, she quickly began to scheme. Her appearance and skills were no match for Ling Shui's. To win the master's long-term favor, she would have to find another way. Ling Shui listened in confusion. She had just joined and hadn't yet experienced the power enhancement. She just felt that the two of them were acting like charlatans. But that didn't stop her from acting coy. Master, I want power too. Lin Dong, irritated by her flirtatiousness, was about to bestow power upon her when he suddenly paused, looking toward the door with a slight frown. After a moment, the two women heard hurried footsteps outside the door. Get ready to watch the show. Lin Dong patted the two women and said in a low voice. Staying cooped up at home was boring. It was much more exciting when someone came to pick a fight. But unexpectedly, the people outside the door weren't coming for him. Wang Sheng, open the damn door. Don't hide inside without a sound. I know you're home. Zhu Feng pounded heavily on the door of room 302, his tone hostile. Only when she heard the voice did Shen Wanyue remember that she still had a husband. Her heart instantly became complicated. Was she being too cheap? You who prided yourself on being a member of the social elite willingly became another man's dog, even though you had a husband. Then involuntarily she raised her hand and slapped herself. Shen Wanyue, you already have a master, and you still think about your husband. You deserve to die. Lin Dong was utterly stunned by this scene, unable to help but give a thumbs up. Truly a social elite adapting to the new job with such swiftness. Look at her, completely immersed in the role. In room 302, Wang Sheng, both hungry and terrified, heard the knock on the door, and his legs began to tremble uncontrollably. You've got the wrong person. I'm not Wang Sheng. Zhu Feng and his crew were taken aback, then burst into roaring laughter. Ha ha ha, since when did Wang Sheng become so humorous? Oh, my stomach hurts from laughing. Hey, he's a high-ranking executive earning hundreds of thousands a year. He's just connecting with the common folk. I know in books this is called burying one's head in the sand, right? Zhu Feng laughed for a long while, then pounded on the door again. Stop hiding, Wang Sheng. Open up and let's talk. If you don't blame us for being rude. Brothers, get ready to pry the door open. The mention of prying the door made Wang Sheng even more terrified. This security door was his last line of defense. If it was broken, anyone could come in and, don't pry. He'll open it. Wang Sheng hurriedly opened the door. Zhu Feng couldn't help but sneer. So this was the company executive, cowed by a few threats. What a waste of a beautiful wife. Haha, brothers, what brings you here? Wang Sheng put on an ingratiating smile. Zhu Feng shoved him aside as the others filed in, eyeing the bread wrappers and bottled water in the room and the wedding photo on the wall, unable to suppress their lecture. Not bad, Supervisor Wang. Living the good life. Where's your wife? Wang Sheng continued his sycophantic smile. My wife. She went back to her parents' place before the snow fell. She's not here now. Someone stepped forward and slapped the back of his head. Stop bullshitting us. We saw your wife at the underground garage deal 2 days ago. If you don't hand her over, we'll go into the bedroom ourselves. Zhu Feng gazed at the wedding photo where Shan Wanyue, adorned in a white wedding gown, was stunningly beautiful, and his heart itched more and more. Supervisor Wang, we're civilized people. We prefer to deal in a civilized manner. How about this? Have your wife come out and entertain us, and you join us. We'll give you half a loaf of bread and half a bottle of water every day as payment. What do you say? He had his eye on Wang Sheng's cheap labor. Though not particularly sturdy, he was still a man. Wang Sheng was furious inside. You're even more exploitative than my old job. You want me to help you break down doors and steal, and you want my wife all for half a loaf of bread a day. There's no blacker deal than this. Lin Dong at least didn't ask me to do anything, and gave me a whole loaf. Brother, it's not that I'm unwilling, but my wife. She's really not home. Zhu Feng's patience was wearing thin. I offered you a chance and you refuse. The others kicked open the bedroom door, but after searching the entire house, they found no trace of Shan Wanyue. Zhu Feng pulled out a half-length steel pipe from behind him and struck Wang Sheng's leg with a crack. The bone broke and Wang Sheng screamed in pain, collapsing to the ground, clutching his leg as tears streamed down his face. Tell me, where did you hide your wife? If you don't, I'll break every limb you have. Wang Sheng was utterly terrified, no longer caring about anything. He pointed toward the door. Brother, don't kill me. My wife is in 301 at Lin Dong's place. Oh, you're quite the player, sending your wife to someone else first. Zhu Feng and the others were stunned. Just then Shen Wanyue, who had already died inside, opened the door at Lin Dong's signal and stared coldly at Wang Sheng. Seeing his wife, Wang Sheng immediately begged for help. Xiaoya, save me. Zhu Feng and the others looked up, and everyone froze in place. Shen Wanyue was now wearing a thick down jacket that reached her calves, concealing her alluring figure, but her face was fair and clean, even adorned with delicate makeup. Under the candlelight, she was breathtakingly beautiful. Moreover, the exposed half of her smooth calves were clad in sheer stockings and stiletto heels with a choker around her neck. Any man witnessing this scene would be overwhelmed with excitement. Before Zhu Feng and his crew could get excited, Ling Shui also emerged. She was dressed similarly to Shen Wanyue, but with purple fishnet stockings on her legs and cat ear accessories on her head. The sight of the two women made every man present swallow hard. Then Lin Dong stepped out, dressed in a black hoodie, with the two women instinctively standing behind him. In an instant, all enmity was drawn to him. Zhu Feng's first thought was, how is he not cold? But the women's beauty and attire were too captivating, making him quickly forget that. He walked out of the room and stood before Lin Dong, sneering. Kid, I haven't seen you around. What do you do? Lin Dong smiled and touched his nose. Oh, I'm just a deliver man. A deliver man? Zhu Feng chuckled. Times have changed. Even a deliver man can have two exquisite women, while I, the boss of this building, can only play with those cheap and tawdry types. I'm the boss of Building 5. You look fit, so follow me from now on. Don't worry, I'll make sure you don't go hungry. Of course, these two women will be for all of us to enjoy. Any objections? In his view, with so many of his men, even the toughest guy would be scared. However, Lin Dong shook his head and smiled. You're wrong about one thing. They're not women. Huh? What do you mean? They're maids. Zhu Feng was speechless. Was there any difference? In Lin Dong's eyes, the difference was huge. You sure know how to have fun, but give me a straight answer. Yes or no? Lin Dong turned to the two women. What about you? Do you want to go? Both women shook their heads simultaneously. In that case, Zhu Feng's eyes flashed with cruelty. He suddenly raised his steel pipe and swung it at Lin Dong. With a slap, a fair little hand suddenly reached out and caught the cold steel pipe. It was Shen Wanyue. Huh? Zhu Feng was bewildered. But Shen Wanyue let out a cold laugh, twisted her arm with force, snatched the pipe, and swung it back down. Zhu Feng's head split open, and with a roll of his eyes he collapsed. This scene stunned everyone. No one expected a delicate, weak woman to crack their boss' skull. Zhu Feng had worked on construction sites, and was no weakling. Shen Wanyue stared at the blood quickly freezing on the steel pipe, momentarily dazed. This was her first kill, but soon she raised the pipe and charged at the other. If not for her master given Wang Sheng's cowardice, she would have become a plaything for these men. Her end would have been death. Since she didn't want to die, they would die. Damn, are we going to be scared of a woman? Brothers, let's take her together. Soon Shen Wanyue was surrounded, but due to her superior physical abilities the fight was evenly matched. Ling Shui watched with excitement, lighting a cigarette for Lin Dong, and cooing, "Master, I want to kill someone too." Lin Dong nodded and handed her the golden desert eagle. "Remember, don't shoot the wrong person." Taking the gun, Ling Shui instantly felt as though she had grasped the ultimate truth, raising it to fire. Bang! A man attempting a sneak attack on Shen Wanyue from behind crumpled to the ground. This sight stunned everyone once more. A gun. Everyone was a law-abiding citizen still stuck in the age of cold weapons. Pulling out a gun was simply cheating. Run! Instantly terrified out of their wits, they surged toward the door. Yet Ling Shui demonstrated what it meant to hold a pass against 10,000. Blocking the doorway, she fired relentlessly, dropping one after another as the gunshots echoed without cease. The entire Jiyuan residential complex heard the gunfire, tension gripping everyone. Am not mistaken, that's definitely a gunshot, a handgun at that, loaded with 357 Magnum rounds. Holy crap, what kind of ears do you have? You can tell all that. No joke, I'm a chicken dinner king. Shush, figure out which building it's coming from. It's from the south, can't pinpoint the exact building. Damn, which ruthless bastard is using a gun? This is going to be a real problem. 2 minutes later, the gunfire ceased. In the entire apartment 302, aside from Wang Sheng, everyone else was dead, either shot to death or beaten to a pulp by Shen Wanyue, the steel pipe bent from the blows. The two women exchanged glances, a flicker of excitement and madness in their eyes. One had a gun, the other had strength. Could they possibly? But a mere glance at Lin Dong, calmly smoking, exuded a terrifying aura capable of crushing anyone. All their petty schemes were instantly suppressed. Snowmaid, come upstairs with me to check the supplies they gathered. Moonmaid, this place is yours. Lin Dong dropped his cigarette, but took the gun Ling Shui handed him, tucked it into his pocket, and turned to ascend the stairs with an indifferent demeanor. Ling Shui lowered her head and followed. In apartment 302, the husband and wife stared at each other. Wang Sheng was utterly terrified. In just one day, his wife, who couldn't even twist open a bottle cap before, had nearly twisted a man's head off. The contrast was far too stark. Shall you? Struggling to speak upon seeing his wife, words caught in his throat. Shen Wanyue's face was still smeared with someone else's blood, her gaze cold and fixed on him, the steel pipe in her hand tightening slowly. Wang Sheng, we were husband and wife. As my husband, you repeatedly pushed me out to others. Are you even a man? Facing his wife's accusations, Wang Sheng had no idea how to explain, weeping bitterly. Xiao Yue, I was wrong. I was truly wrong. Xiao Yue, while Lin Dong isn't here, steal me some food, okay? I'm so hungry. Believe me, once I'm full and have my strength back, I won't fear anyone. He'll protect you well from now on, and he'll never let anyone. Shen Wanyue couldn't bear to listen anymore. He still wanted her to steal from her master. Raising the bent steel pipe, she brought it down with heavy force. Bang! The blow cracked her husband's skull open. Not satisfied with a single hit, Shen Wanyue continued to strike, the thuds echoing relentlessly. Only when Wang Sheng's head was completely smashed did Shen Wanyue gasp for breath, dropping the pipe. Gazing at the shattered, blood-stained wedding photo, she wept uncontrollably. After crying for a long while, Shen Wanyue wiped the blood from her face with reddened eyes. A belated wave of nausea hit her, and she immediately retched. In the silent stairwell, only their footsteps echoed. Ling Shui nervously watched Lin Dong's back, fear gripping her heart. She and Shen Wanyue had both entertained treacherous thoughts earlier. She wondered if their master had noticed. If he had, she would surely be in trouble. In truth, Lin Dong had indeed noticed. The murderous intent in the two women's eyes had been impossible to conceal. But he chose to ignore it, even feeling a hint of anticipation. You'd better give me some amusement, or this post-apocalyptic life will be far too boring. After all, ever since he was kicked out, his heart had been as cold as the fish cleaver used for over a decade in a supermarket. These two stunning women were merely toys for his entertainment. Reaching the 17th floor, he heard people talking. Damn, that gunshot seemed to come from our building. What are old Zhu and his guys up to? How should I know? Could something have gone wrong? Damn, I'm getting scared. Should we keep the door shut? Shut it and die. There's a fire burning inside. You want to suffocate us? Just then Lin Dong arrived at the door. The men were startled, but upon seeing Ling Shui behind him, they couldn't help swallowing hard. Though the ketchup-like stains on this stunning woman's face looked oddly unsettling. Was that the new trendy look this year? Which building are you from? What do you want? Lin Dong spotted several boxes of supplies piled in the corner. Turning to Ling Shui, he said, take them all back. No waste. The men's faces instantly twisted. Are you deaf, asshole? I asked where you're from, and you dare touch our... Before they could finish, they all fell silent as Lin Dong pulled out his gun. Damn, The gun belonged to this guy. Then what about Zhu Feng and the others? The leading man immediately switched to a flattering smile. Haha, little brother, what's all this about? We have no grudges here. How about this, leave us 1 pack of instant noodles each, and you can take the rest, okay? Lin Dong thought for a moment, and silently put the gun away. The men sighed in relief. But the next second Lin Dong suddenly grabbed a hammer from the shoe cabinet, lunged, and smashed it into the leader's head, cracking it open. He put the gun away because gunfire was too noisy, it was late, and might disturb others' sleep. Lin Dong had always been a considerate citizen. Hey you! Bang! These men stood no chance against Lin Dong. They couldn't even touch his clothes before their heads were bashed in within moments. As he struck, he muttered, "First, when I say something is mine, it's mine. Second, I don't like being called little brother." Ling Shui watched with stars in her eyes. Her master was so strong, so fierce. Last time he wreaked havoc in her home, she had fainted. This time she finally witnessed his skills. He moved like a martial arts master from TV dramas, effortless, each strike a fatal blow. At the same time, a chill of fear ran through her. Thank goodness she hadn't lost her mind earlier, or she'd be dead now. Finishing off the remaining men, Lin Dong heard noise from the bedroom. Opening the door, he frowned. Inside were over 20 women captured by Zhu Feng and his gang, all crammed into the room. They were disheveled, unwashed for days, emitting a foul odor. They saw Lin Dong and the corpses behind him, a glimmer of hope in their eyes. "Are you Lin Dong, the delivery guy from our building?" "It's him." "Great, Lin Dong, are you here to rescue us?" "Woo-woo, we're saved at last. Those beasts killed my husband and strangled my son. Let me out, I want to beat." The women rushed out to vent their rage on the bodies. Lin Dong stepped aside, scrutinizing them carefully, then sighed in disappointment. There were no beauties here, not even one worth over 80 points. A wasted trip. These women had either lost their husbands and children to the men or been humiliated by them, so each harbored a deep resentment. They flogged the corpse without mercy. Ling Shui watched the frenzied women from the side, silently thanking her luck for meeting Lin Dong. When their venting was over, the women spotted the pile of supplies nearby, their stomachs growling with hunger, and they rushed over uncontrollably. Seeing this, Ling Shui dashed forward and spread her arms to block them. "These supplies belong to my master. You are not allowed to take them." The women noticed Ling Shui's rosy complexion, her spotless appearance, and even the faint, pleasant fragrance emanating from her. Envy gnawed at their hearts. "Why should they be yours? Those men stole these things from my home. They're mine. Exactly, can you two even finish all this? You have to share with us. Dressed up like a streetwalker, shameless. Hey, let's not fight. We're all women. Women shouldn't bully women. Little girl, step aside." Ling Shui grew furious and looked to Lin Dong for help. "Master, give me the gun, I'll shoot them dead. These people are too much. You saved them, and they're still ungrateful, even trying to steal from us." Lin Dong smiled, walked through the crowd to the supplies, and gave a subtle look. Ling Shui immediately knelt obediently, arching her back to form an impromptu. The sight stunned every woman, and they all silently cursed Ling Shui for being utterly shameless. "Want food? No problem. Each of you answer one of my questions. If I'm satisfied, I'll give you a pack of instant noodles and a bottle of water." Lin Dong casually picked up a pack of instant noodles and crushed it. The women exchanged glances. Lin Dong had single-handedly taken down those men, which meant he was no one to trifle with. They couldn't afford to offend him. "Then go ahead and ask. Simple. Do you know any clean, pretty women? Each of you recommend one. Tell me her name and address." "The requirement, she can't be," he said, stroking Ling Shui's hair. "A maid. 1 or 2 were never enough. The more the merrier." The women were taken aback. What kind of pervert was this? He already had such a beautiful slut, and now he wanted them to recommend more. How is this any different from a nightclub madam? A middle-aged woman with barely passable looks immediately raised her hand. "I know one. Shen Wanyue in room 302 of this building. She's very beautiful." The other women panicked inside. Damn, that old woman got there first. Shen Wanyue's reputation for beauty in Building 5 was quite intimidating. But Lin Dong shook his head. "That doesn't count. I've already taken Shen Wanyue. Give me another." "Oh well." The middle-aged woman was stunned. The women began racking their brains. One woman who looked about 30 was especially quick-witted. She had been a personnel manager at a company, so she was quite intelligent. She could tell at a glance that the kneeling woman had a healthy glow, meaning she ate and slept well. This indirectly proved that Lin Dong's living conditions were excellent, plenty of supplies. Following him meant no worries about food or drink. Even if she got her hands on the supplies in front of her, it would only last an extra day or two. So she stepped forward with her head held high and chest out. "I know one. She lives in Unit 5, Apartment 1704. Her name is Li Xiaoyan." Lin Dong's eyes lit up slightly. There was a gem in this building. How had he missed it? But the other women looked up in surprise. "Xiaoyan, aren't you talking about yourself?" Li Xiaoyan replied confidently, "That's right, I'm talking about myself." Lin Dong's bright eyes turned cold again. "Damn it, are you messing with me?" This woman was flat-chested with a pancake face, barely a 60 if that. Seeing Lin Dong's expression darken, Li Xiaoyan quickly said, "Don't judge me by how I look now. It's because I haven't bathed or put on makeup. If you let me wash up and put on some makeup, I'll be no worse than those cheap vixens." Ling Shui fumed inwardly. "You're the cheap vixen." Lin Dong waved his hand. "You're too ugly. It doesn't count. I can count." Li Xiaoyan remained confident. "Let me tell you, you used to be just a delivery guy. I understand you haven't tasted fine food, so it's no wonder this slut charmed you. But I, Li Xiaoyan, am nothing like her plastic surgery face. If you take me in, I promise to serve you well." Trying to manipulate me. Lin Dong felt like laughing. He could tell with his own hands whether Ling Shui's face was real or not. "What did you do before?" "I was a personnel manager at a company." "No wonder. The way you talk reeks of someone who doesn't do real work." Lin Dong suddenly thought of something and broke into an enigmatic smile. "Fine. I'll give you a chance. You can be my trial maid. If you perform well, you might get promoted to full-time." Trial. Li Xiaoyan was naturally unsatisfied, but after a moment's thought she agreed. At least she had a foot in the door. Once she got the chance, she was sure she could bewitch Lin Dong and kick that slut beneath him out. That way she could enjoy all his supplies for herself. It was how she had gotten her manager position. Seeing this, the other women began to recommend themselves, but ugly women scoring 50, 40, or even 30 points winking at him left Lin Dong speechless. "Come on, lady. You're old enough to be my mother. Don't bother. I know one, 𝓃. She's a local from our city, Jiangqing." A woman racked her brains and finally came up with a name. Lin Dong's gaze grew dark. Even though he wasn't a fan, he knew 𝓃's name. A triple threat star in film, TV, and music, the pride of Jiangqing, the dream girl of countless men. "You know her. Where does she live?" I don't know." Bang. He raised his gun and shot her point blank. Her head exploded instantly, sending the other women diving to the ground in terror. "I'll say it again. I need an address, not a random name to fool me." Lin Dong's voice was icy. Lin Dong's sudden killing finally brought the women's arrogance back in check. They remembered that this man was a ruthless killer who had eliminated the other men without hesitation. With that lesson fresh in mind, the other women began to think seriously, not daring to lie at all. But after half an hour, less than half of them had provided valid names and addresses. None from the same compound. Lin Dong, as promised, gave them instant noodles and, "Alright, I'm tired. Let's go home." Lin Dong yawned, ordering Ling Shui and Li Xiaoyan to carry the remaining supplies away, leaving the other women to starve. He had no intention of caring about their fates. When they returned to the third floor, Shen Wanyue had already finished vomiting and cleaned up the bodies, including her husband's. "Master, you." Shen Wanyue paused. She could understand the master bringing back another woman, but why one so ugly? Upon seeing Shen Wanyue, Li Xiaoyan couldn't help but snort coldly, lifting her head with an air of arrogance. "Just wait, once I finish my makeup, it'll utterly out. This is the new probationary maid. You two help her settle in and teach her the rules," Lin Dong said before entering the bedroom alone. Finding a map of Jiangqing, she marked the information of the beauties she had gathered, roughly planned a route, and intended to create a travel guide. Look, Brother Dong is truly the perfect travel companion. As soon as Li Xiaoyan entered, she couldn't help but be equally stunned. "It's so warm in here. Come on, let me take you to take a bath first." The master prefers cleanliness. Ling Shui reluctantly led her to the bathroom, utterly puzzled as to why the master would take in such an old and ugly woman. After bathing, feeling refreshed, Li Xiaoyan unceremoniously began using Shen Wanyue's cosmetics to doll herself up. Seeing her calmly sitting and applying makeup, Shen Wanyue frowned. "Didn't they just teach you the rules? In this house, without the master's permission, you must kneel." Li Xiaoyan glanced at the closed bedroom door and snorted coldly. "What's there to fear? He's not." Shen Wanyue and the other woman exchanged glances. This newcomer was not only ugly, but also a troublemaker. They were increasingly unable to fathom the master's thoughts. An hour later, Li Xiaoyan, now dressed in new clothes and caked with heavy makeup, was brimming with confidence, looking at Shen Wanyue and Ling Shui as if they were mere. "You bitches just wait to be slain by my beauty." Arriving at the bedroom door, Li Xiaoyan knocked. "Master, your yen maid awaits your favor." The two women turned away simultaneously, feeling nauseated. Lin Dong opened the door, meeting Li Xiaoyan's fervent gaze. "Is that all?" To be fair, Li Xiaoyan's makeup skills were indeed something, a testament to the legendary Asian sorcery. Her pancake face had been sculpted into an oval, her small eyes transformed into large, captivating ones, and her somewhat rough skin now appeared smooth and delicate. How she managed to create a cleavage from her flat chest was a mystery. But that was all there was to it. Lin Dong lost interest after a single glance. You'll sleep in the living room with them. Remember to follow the rules." With that, he slammed the door shut, nearly hitting Li Xiaoyan's nose. Shen Wanyue and Ling Shui couldn't help but laugh. "Bitch, got you now, didn't it? You can doubt the master's intelligence, but never his taste." Li Xiaoyan stared blankly at the door, utterly bewildered. How dare he? I am the company's chosen flower. All the young and pretty front desk girls compliment my beauty every single day. Even the boss sneaks me into hotel rooms when his wife's away. How dare this deadbeat deliver man look down on me?" Li Xiaoyan was furious. She wanted to stand up, knock on the door, and demand an explanation from Lin Dong. But recalling his bad temper and the fact that he held the truth in his hands, she chickened out. Alright, stop dwelling on pointless things. Just tidy up the house properly. You should be grateful the master even let you stay, Ling Shui advised before curling up at the foot of the sofa with Shun Wanyue to sleep. You. Li Xiaoyan fumed at the mess of food scraps littering the room. She had always been the one to bully others at work, and now she was the one being bullied. This was utterly outrageous. But what could she do? She had no choice but to clean up obediently and then lie down in another corner of the sofa. At midnight, the rewards were distributed again, one of which was a 5-point increase in power level. Without hesitation, he chose to become stronger. Now at level 11, Lin Dong performed a one-handed handstand on his bed. Terrifyingly strong, with a sense of satisfaction, Lin Dong fell asleep. Apartment 301 fell completely silent. But the other residents of Jiyuan residential complex couldn't sleep at all. The sudden sound of gunfire sent a wave of crisis through the building kings of each tower. Building 2. No, we must find the shooter. If he remains hidden in the shadows, our current positions are far from secure. Building 6. Send a few people tomorrow morning to go through the underground garage and notify the other buildings. Call a meeting to figure out where the shooter is. A consensus was reached across nearly all buildings. The shooter could not be allowed to live. Moreover, the gun itself must fall into their hands. In a unit in Building 14, a woman was performing a hand-supported Kaundinyasana yoga pose wearing only a sports bra. This was an extremely difficult pose demanding great arm strength and balance. The woman had a superb figure with graceful yet powerful lines. Her long, slender legs were stretched taut, and her firm buttocks were outlined alluringly. Her hair was tied up, simply revealing a small face with strikingly defined features. A light sheen of sweat glistened on her forehead. If not for the unwavering determination in her eyes, anyone who saw her would be moved by a sense of delicate. If Lin Dong were here, he would surely give a thumbs up. I thought Ling Shui was unmatched in the world, but hey, someone who's her equal. Whose general is this? Jiangzhu. 28. 29. 30. She held the pose effortlessly for 30 minutes, then stood up, rubbing her slightly sore arms, a triumphant smile on her face. I'm no longer afraid of any man. Jiangzhu was pleased with her current state. She had originally been a yoga instructor, the legitimate kind. She specialized in helping women improve their posture, and thus was highly disciplined herself, maintaining a perfect physique. On the first day of the apocalypse, while walking home from work, she accidentally encountered the toxic snow. Upon discovering that the toxic snow caused people to break out in pustules and die, Jiangzhu was terrified and fled home, fearing both death and a gruesome demise. However, after returning home, unlike others who began developing pustules, Jiangzhu instead came down with a high fever, her temperature soaring above. In a state of feverish delirium, Jiangzhu miraculously pulled through. 3 days later, the fever subsided. But her body had undergone changes. She discovered she was no longer afraid of the cold, and her strength had increased dramatically. Previously, she could barely hold that pose for a few minutes before gasping for breath. Now she could easily sustain it for 30 minutes, a testament to the immense improvement in her physique. 2 days ago, a riot broke out in Building 14. Jiangzhu, with her sweet face and perfect figure, naturally became the prime target for all the men. But she was unafraid. Single-handedly wielding an iron rod, she subdued every man in the building. As a result, Building 14 had the fewest deaths in the entire complex, and she became its building king. A knock came at the door. Jiangzhu frowned. Who could be looking for her so late? Putting on a down jacket to conceal her stunning figure, she opened the door to find a young man standing outside, one of her admirers. Sister Jiang, someone from another building just sent word. They want us to go down for a meeting tomorrow morning to discuss the shooter. Jiangzhu furrowed her brow slightly. She too was concerned about the gunshots. After all, despite her newfound strength, she was no match for a bullet. All right. Jiangzhu was about to close the door after agreeing, but the young man hastily blocked it. Are you looking for death? Jiangzhu's expression was unfriendly. She had already beaten up all the men in the building, yet someone still dared to harass her. The young man quickly withdrew his hand, naturally a bit scared, and said with an awkward smile, well, Sister Jiang, that's not what I meant. It's just, my cat can do a backflip. I wanted to invite you to my place for a visit. No other meaning, just a visit. Such a stunning beauty, even with formidable combat prowess, could still attract many people, and this young man was one of them. If he could win over Jiangzhu, he would be able to stand tall. Crazy, Jiangzhu said with disdain, and slammed the door shut. At 2 in the night, the entire neighborhood was quiet. Li Xiaoyan was not asleep. She tossed and turned, unable to understand why Lin Dong didn't fancy her. Could it be? He was impotent. But the other 2 women looked radiant, so it couldn't be that. After much thought, she never felt it was her own fault. No, I have to quickly get Lin Dong and make him drive those 2 women out. Li Xiaoyan's mind started working. Under the cover of night, she gently got up and tiptoed toward the bedroom. Her movements were very light, and the 2 women didn't notice, but Lin Dong suddenly heard the sound and couldn't help showing a cold smile. This woman was indeed asking for trouble. Li Xiaoyan reached out and gently turned the bedroom door handle, opening it a crack. Before her head could even poke in, the next second a gunshot rang out. Bang! The tripwire that Lin Dong had set up in advance was triggered when the door was pushed open. The trigger moved, and the bullet instantly left the chamber. Li Xiaoyan had no idea Lin Dong was so cautious. She was shot in the head on the spot, blood splattering all over the room, her eyes full of disbelief as her body heavily fell to the ground. What happened? The sudden gunshot startled the two women awake. They quickly got up and turned on flashlights. Upon seeing Li Xiaoyan's corpse, both women were stunned, breaking out in a cold sweat. What's going on? Nothing. Throw away this fool's corpse and clean the house thoroughly before morning. Lin Dong's cold voice came from the dark bedroom. Yes, master. The two women quickly set to work. They carried Li Xiaoyan's body and threw it out the window, then fetched hot water and began scrubbing the floor. After a long while, Ling Shui finally whispered softly, she was killed because she tried to enter the master's bedroom. A wave of fear washed over her. Earlier that day, when Shen Wanyue said the master didn't allow them into his room, she had considered sneaking in while he was asleep. Unexpectedly, the master had already taken precautions. Thankfully, she was too tired at night and forgot about it. Shen Wanyue nodded grimly, thinking more deep. While changing the water in the bathroom, Shen Wanyue whispered her speculation. I think Lin Dong is warning us. What do you mean? During the night, both of us had some ill intentions toward Lin Dong. He must have noticed, but he didn't show anything indicating he doesn't care whether we betray him. But he still took that wretched woman in, probably because he predicted Li Xiaoyan would break the rules, so she died. Lin Dong's meaning is probably to use Li Xiaoyan as a warning to us. We can betray him, we can break the rules, but we must also be prepared to be killed by him. Therefore, if we want to make a move against Lin Dong, we must completely eliminate him, otherwise he won't give us any chance to beg for mercy. Either he dies. Ling Shui was stunned by Shen Wanyue's speculation. So cunning. It could only be said that as a social elite, Shen Wanyue had basically guessed Lin Dong's intentions correctly. That was exactly his meaning. Lin Dong was very much looking forward to how the maids would betray him, but he also told them in advance, if you want to betray, be fully prepared, or else it's death. If you're going to do it, make it a big move. Others in the apocalypse fight against heaven. Lin Dong felt his strength would surely grow stronger, and fighting heaven was boring. It was more interesting to fight against people. It must be said that this warning had a huge effect. The last bit of cunning in Shen Wanyue's heart was completely extinguished. Ling Shui quickly shook her head. I will not betray the master. I am the master's most loyal maid. Is that so? Shen Wanyue glanced at her, smiled without saying a word, and continued wiping the bloodstains. It must be said that this warning had a huge effect. The last bit of cunning in Shen Wanyue's heart was completely extinguished. Ling Shui quickly shook her head. I will not betray the master. I am the master's most. At 8 in the morning, Lin Dong woke up, enjoyed a hearty breakfast served by the two women, and also helped Ling Shui level up to level 2. After the upgrade, Lin Dong smoked a cigarette, looking out the window with confusion. Strange, why is it so quiet today? The previous 2 days, as soon as it was dawn, there were all kinds of smashing sounds and screams in the neighborhood. Today is exceptionally quiet. Shen Wanyue looked at Ling Shui, who had finished leveling up, and was now asleep with envy in her eyes. She rubbed against Lin Dong's pant leg. Master, this morning I saw people from other buildings going downstairs collectively. They should be going to the underground garage to discuss something. Is that so? Lin Dong nodded, stood up, and kicked Ling Shui. Stop sleeping, get up quickly. Let's go join the fun. Ugh. I still want to sleep. Okay, master. Look how scared the poor thing was, almost traumatized. In the underground garage, the building captains of each building had gathered with their people, and a bonfire was set up in the middle. Jiang Zhu sat on the roof of a Doomsday Su-7, wearing a thick down jacket, listening to them suspect each other. Building 7, what's going on? Where are the people from Building 3 and Building 5? Are they looking down on us? Building 6, yesterday when I sent someone to notify them, we found Building 5 locked. We knocked for a long time, but no one answered. As for Building 3, there was a leader named Zheng Dajuan, and he said he wasn't coming. Building 10, what does that mean? So according to that, the gunman is in one of these 2 buildings. Building 8, possible. Building 11, hey, what's the point of all this guessing? If you ask me, haven't you noticed that the building captain of Building 14 is actually a beauty? At these words, everyone turned their gaze to Jiang Zhu. Their eye, even in a down jacket, Jiang Zhu's delicate face was still visible, standing out incongruously among the rough men. Several men beside Jiang Zhu, seeing someone harassing their boss, revealed knowing smiles. Go ahead and ask for trouble. If you provoke, Sister Jiang shall beat you until you cry. Once they dealt with these people, their Building 14 could take over the others' supplies, increasing their chances of survival. Jiang Zhu, seeing all the men staring at her with arrogance, slowly stood up. What? You think a woman like me is easy to bully? With that, she stomped her right foot heavily, and the Doomsday Su-7 completely caved in on the spot with air. Holy shit. Everyone was stunned by that kick. What kind of power was that? It was a car. Even a strong man would need to jump to dent it. This young girl just kicked the airbag out of that influencer car with one blow. No wonder she became the building king of her tower. She's that tough. Jiang Zhu's underlings were on the verge of tears. Their boss was strong, but her brain was a bit too straightforward. You scared them too early. Now no one dares to make a move, so how are we supposed to rob them? Could she be any more naive? But they only dared to grumble inwardly. Jiang Zhu didn't show them any mercy either, so they didn't dare to speak up. They had followed her to this meeting on their own accord. Building 7, he truly a woman worthy of respect. Sis, you're the real deal. He gave a thumbs up. With the minor interruption over, the group continued discussing the gunman, but no matter how much they deliberated, they couldn't confirm which building to At that moment, the building king of Tower 2 stood up, a smug grin spreading across his face. Enough, all this guessing is pointless. Brothers, surround them all. He waved his hand, and the dozen or so men from building 2 swiftly formed a circle. Yes, a dozen men encircling over 100 people. Building 7 frowned. Tian-E, what's your game? Are you declaring war on all of us? Tian-E laughed heartily, pulling a silver pistol from his pocket. I wanted to get along with you as an ordinary person, but all I got was suspicion. I'm done pretending. I'm the gunman. I confess. This scene instantly terrified everyone, and chaos erupted. Jiang Zhu's brow furrowed deeply. Since the gunman had revealed himself, she would take him down in the confusion and seize the weapon. Everyone shut the hell up. Tian-E roared. True to form, under the threat of the gun, the crowd, despite their fear, had no choice but to fall silent. Building 8. Tian-E, stop bluffing. That gun's fake, isn't it? Tian-E sneered as he walked up to him, pressing the muzzle against his forehead. Oh really? Want to test it yourself and see if it's real? A cold sweat broke out on Building 8's forehead. The icy touch against his skull suggested this thing was very likely real. He wasn't about to gamble with his life. No. I believe you. Seeing everyone subdued, Tian-E was immensely pleased with the effect. His gun was naturally a fake. It was a replica bought online, made of metal and identical in appearance to a real firearm. He was bluffing with borrowed power, of course, and he had his reasons. Tian-E walked to the center of the crowd, grinning. Neighbors, I'm outing myself today with no other. I just want to ask you all for a little donation of supplies. Our building 2 is poor. We've scoured every room and found nothing to eat. So this is the only way. Now if you want to live, hand over half of the supplies you've collected from each building, and it'll let you go. Building 11 sneered, dream on. Half the supplies. That was no different from taking their lives. A glint of cruelty flashed in Tian-E's eyes. One of his lackeys immediately grabbed a knife and swung it, slashing at someone's forehead. The others were furious, but when Tian-E pointed the gun at them again, they backed down. Did you think I was negotiating? If I take it by force, it won't be just half. Each building's leader bowed their heads in thought, weighing whether to fight Tian-E. There were many of them. Even the best marksmen couldn't kill all of them, but some would definitely die. The question was, who was willing to die? These so-called underlings were nothing more than allies of convenience. When faced with mortal danger, they wouldn't charge forward for anyone. So what now? Tian-E watched the contemplative crowd, his smirk growing more arrogant. His actions were essentially walking on a knife's edge. If someone resisted, everyone would realize his gun was fake, and then his fate would be grim. But he had a keen grasp of human nature. Those who had survived this long all cherished their lives. They didn't dare to gamble. Great fortune comes from great risk. That was Tian-E's motto. The underground garage was dead silent. Suddenly, the rhythmic clack of high heels echoed from afar, and everyone involuntarily turned their gaze. Soon 3 figures came into view. The man in the middle drew little attention. All eyes were fixed on the 2 women behind him. Today, Shen Wanyue wore a white trench coat that reached her calves, no stockings, revealing her pale ankles. She walked barefoot in red-bottomed heels, a collar around her neck, her hair in a ponytail, and cat ears atop her head. Her cold, aloof aura stirred a desire for conquest. Ling Shui, in stark contrast, wore a black trench coat to her calves, paired with sheer stockings and the same high heels. Her hair was piled high in a bun adorned with a small devil horn headpiece, and her makeup was seductive and bewitching. Everyone gasped simultaneously. What stunning women! Jiang Zhu's pupils contracted. Aren't they cold, wearing so little? Had they also mutated like her, gaining superpowers? The moment Tian-E saw the 2 women, he felt himself getting aroused. They're mine. Yo, the party's already started. Looks like I'm late. Lin Dong said with an innocent smile, scanning the crowd before settling his gaze on, what a beautiful woman. And judging by her position, she was the building king. But more importantly, in his eyes, Jiang Zhu had a set of characters hovering above her. LV3. What the hell? How did she have a level? Could it be she was some kind of superhuman or awakened being possessing extraordinary power that the system could display? Good. She's mine. Kid, where did you pop up from? Tian-E approached with a hostile expression. Lin Dong scratched his head shyly. Oh, I'm the leader of Building 5. I heard you were having a Building King meeting and didn't invite me, so I came on my own. The two women exchanged a glance. Their master's acting was spot on, or anyone would believe he was just an innocent boy. Is that so? Just in time then. 𝂃 suddenly raised his gun, aiming at Lin Dong's forehead. Those two women are mine now. Hand over half your supplies, or I'll blow your brains out. Lin Dong looked at him innocently. Come on man, I just got here, and you already want to shoot me. Stop the crap. Tell them to come over and kneel before me. You want to die? Seeing the two women up close, 𝂃 felt like he was about to explode. Lin Dong shrugged. It's not that I don't want to give them to you, but that gun of yours is fake. In an instant, he drew a golden Desert Eagle and shoved the barrel into 𝂃's mouth. Seems like mine is the real deal. Young woodcutter, did you drop this golden gun, or this silver gun? Or perhaps my master's unwobbling gun? Ling Shue's timely voiceover made Lin Dong, but the others dared not laugh. Two guns had appeared in the neighborhood at the same time. Which one was real? Or were both real? Everyone felt their hearts sink. They didn't know, but 𝂃 himself knew. His was fake. He didn't know if the others was fake, but he knew his was fake. He too valued his life and dared not gamble. His earlier audacity was built on the assurance that no one present had a gun. Now that another gunman had appeared, he chickened out. Now with the muzzle pressed against his throat, he dared not move an inch. Lin Dong didn't know if 𝂃's gun was real either, but he wasn't flustered at all. Even if it was real, Lin Dong was confident he could take the other out the moment his finger. What's the matter? Want to make a bet with me? Let's see whose gun is real. However, 𝂃's mouth was blocked. How could he speak? Sweat poured from his forehead, his eyes filled with pleading, his whole body trembling like a sieve. A warm stream involuntarily flowed from between his legs. Damn, I'm talking to you, and you piss yourself. How rude. Bang. Lin Dong, with an annoyed expression, fired a bullet that pierced 𝂃's throat and exited from the back of his head. He casually grabbed 𝂃's silver gun and crushed it in one hand. So it was fake. You should have said so, 𝂃's corpse. You fucking shoved the barrel in my mouth, how could I speak? The gunshot instantly terrified everyone. So the real gunman was him. The scene immediately fell into chaos. Bang. Bang. Lin Dong fired 2 shots into the air. What's all the noise? Quiet down. These 2 shots were far more intimidating than 𝂃's. Everyone instinctively squatted, hugged their heads, and lowered their gazes, obedient as hell. Lin Dong walked into the middle of the crowd. Ling Shue timely took a cigarette from her pocket and placed it between Lin Dong's lips, while Shen Wanyue took the opportunity to pull out a lighter and lit it. Ahem, looks like everyone's here. I won't waste words. Hand over all your supplies. I'm a man of peace. I don't like killing innocents. Boom. Everyone felt their heads were about to explode. Damn it. 𝂃 at least knew to leave half for us, but this new guy is even more ruthless. This is driving them to death. Building 8, young brother. Bang. The building leader of Building 8 was shot in the head. I don't like people calling me young. Lin Dong blew on the muzzle of his golden Desert Eagle. I've been called Little Lin and Little Dong all my life. I'm sick of it. The others were numb. This guy was moody and damn hard to deal with. Seeing that no one spoke, Lin Dong looked displeased. Why is everyone silent? You're making me feel like I'm oppressing you. Don't be so restrained. Speak freely. Everyone. As if I believe that bullshit. Still not talking? Then I'll take it as your consent. Send a few people up to bring down the supplies so I don't have to search every house and waste time. However, the situation was what it was. They neither wanted to give in nor be the first to step forward. Hey, you're ignoring me. I'm so embarrassed. Lin Dong's face darkened, and he was about to go on a killing spree. At that moment, Jiang Zhu, who could no longer bear it, stood up. You've gone too far. You want our supply? Fine, dare to fight me. If you win, the supplies are yours. If you lose, then I'll kill you. Hope glimmered in everyone's eyes. Jiang Zhu's combat prowess was evident to all. The gunman was only so arrogant because he had a gun. In an unknown fight, Jiang Zhu could beat the shit out of him. Lin Dong revealed an enigmatic smile. Sure, I can never refuse a Bowtie's request. With that, he aimed the gun at Jiang Zhu. I mean no guns. Jiang Zhu hastily said. This guy is so cringe, fighting a woman and still using a gun. Lin Dong raised an eyebrow slightly. Interesting, she can even choose the fighting style. But he still smiled and put away his gun. At that moment, Ling Shue stepped forward. Master, let me take her on. Today she had finally gained power, and she was eager to test her strength. Lin Dong looked at her strangely. You're only level 2, and she's level 3. You might lose. Alright, but if you lose, Master will punish you. Don't worry, Master, I won't lose. Ling Shue said with confidence. Shen Wanyue, being sensible, set up a stool. Lin Dong sat down cross-legged, smoking a cigarette. Beauty first, fight my maid. If you beat her, then you'll have the qualification to fight me. Jiang Zhu looked serious, stretched her limbs, and walked up to Ling Shue. 2 beauties fighting. Even though everyone was scared, they couldn't help but look up. Such a scene was rare. Beat me, and you'll have the right to face my master. But you won't get the chance. Shameless. Both women charged forward simultaneously. Jiang Zhu threw the first punch, startling Ling Shue. So fast. She quickly tilted her head, narrowly dodging, and followed up with a knee strike, which Jiang Zhu countered with her own knee. The two exchanged blows, each move fierce and vicious. Sometimes a punch would leave a fist print on the ground. Everyone couldn't help but widen their eyes and, damn, these two women are so fierce. It seems like either one could beat the crap out of me. The people from Building 14, who had been confident in Jiang Zhu, now felt their confidence waver. It felt like their worldview was being challenged. How could all the beauties be this strong? How are we men supposed to live? The two women fought more and more intensely, occasionally flinging sweat. Interesting. Come again. Jiang Zhu grew angry and attacked with even greater force. This was tough on Ling Shui. Her level was lower and she had little real combat experience. She just flailed wildly, but all her moves were blocked. Moreover, she was carrying a heavy burden like a Mercedes-Benz G-Class, which hindered her movements, and she was already exhausted. No, I can't lose face in front of my master. Ling Shui gritted her teeth and endured, but she was ultimately no match for the yoga teacher. Jiang Zhu kicked her calf, causing her to lose balance and fall to the ground. Then she immediately applied a supple bone lock, immobilizing her completely. Let me go. Let me go. Ling Shui saw Lin Dong's mocking gaze and was terrified. But Jiang Zhu was simply stronger, and Ling Shui's joints were locked. No matter how she struggled, she couldn't break free. All right, you win. You have the qualification to face me. Lin Dong conceded on behalf of Ling Shui. Only then did Jiang Zhu step back, panting to recover her strength. This man was definitely stronger than this woman. She had to be careful. Master, I'm sorry. Ling Shui immediately knelt beside Lin Dong's leg, looking pitiful. She had gone into battle with full confidence, only to be beaten into immobility. What a huge embarrassment. Lin Dong stood up expressionlessly, his tone icy. They'll punish you properly when we get back. Ling Shui's delicate frame trembled incessantly. Shen Wanhua looked at her own face equally bitter. Ling Shui, who was about on par with her, had also been defeated. This truly exceeded her expectations. Jiang Zhu saw Lin Dong stepping forward. She took a deep breath, about to speak, but then noticed a steel pipe at her feet and immediately picked it up. I'm a woman, so it's not wrong for me to use a weapon, right? Lin Dong chuckled. As you wish. Then it's not wrong for me to use a weapon either, right? Don't worry, I won't use a gun. Jiang Zhu was furious. This man was even more demeaning. Didn't he know how to yield to a woman? Lin Dong looked around, then suddenly thrust his hand into the collar of Shen Wanhou's down jacket. Amidst her bewildered gaze, he pulled out a frozen fish. It was a frozen fish. And it seemed to be a mayo fish. He tapped the frozen fish with his finger and nodded with satisfaction. He had always wanted to try how powerful a frozen fish could be after watching TV dramas, and now he could finally test it. Jiang Zhu's expression turned strange. Your surname is Gao. Lin Dong shook his head. No, my surname is Lin. Jiang Zhu was speechless, then her small face became serious, gripping the steel pipe tightly. Can we start? Jiang Zhu nodded. The next second, Lin Dong in front of her suddenly vanished. Huh, where did he go? An unparalleled terror swept through her body. Suddenly she felt a slap on her perky buttocks. Nice feel, looks like you work out often, came Lin Dong's voice from behind. Jiang Zhu was stunned. When did he get behind me? Without thinking, she immediately swung the steel pipe backward, but missed again because Lin Dong had already appeared behind her once more. Level 11 versus level 3. The difference was that immense that she couldn't even catch a glimpse of Lin Dong. Moreover, Lin Dong knew nothing about chivalry. He raised the frozen fish and brought it down heavily on Jiang Zhu's left arm. Crunch. Opt. Opt. Jiang Zhu cried out in pain on the spot, her veins bulging and cold sweat streaming down. The others couldn't help but hold their breath. Because Jiang Zhu's arm was brutally fractured, bending outward. What a Sigma male. He truly showed no mercy to women. Sorry, I didn't control my strength well. Are you okay? Lin Dong said awkwardly. Go to hell. Jiang Zhu roared in fury, swinging the steel pipe with her remaining right hand, but Lin Dong was faster. Another crunch, and her right arm was also fractured. At the same time, the frozen fish's tail also broke off. It seems this variety isn't hard enough. Next time I'll switch to carp or silver carp, Lin Dong commented while stroking his chin. Jiang Zhu was crying from the pain. Both arms were broken. This was unbearable for an ordinary person. She writhed on the ground in agony. Master is amazing. Ling Shui gave a little flattery, but only got Lin Dong's back of the head in return. The others, seeing Jiang Zhu's miserable state, turned green with fear. Damn, is this man a Superman? How can we even play? You're so awesome, and have a gun, why don't you go rob others? Why are you robbing us? Discarding the fishtail, Lin Dong sat down. Jiang Zhu was both angry, ashamed, and in pain. Her two powerful long legs struggled violently, but she still couldn't break free. Damn you, man, how can you humiliate me like this? Everyone she lost. You still have to bring me all your supplies. They'll give you half an hour. If you don't bring them, they'll visit each house one by one, and bring me the women you've captured, as well. Let me have a look. And also hand over all your prohibited knives to me for safekeeping. I'm a person without a sense of security. If you all hold weapons, I can't sleep. Everyone, you have a gun and still lack a sense of security. They exchanged glances, then obediently dropped their weapons, got up, and ran back to fetch their belongings. They had no choice but to comply. This guy had a gun and could fight, and the snow outside blocked the roads. They had nowhere to escape. The young man who liked Jiangzhu looked at her twisted face with complex emotions, gritted his teeth, and ran away anyway. Nothing is more important than one's own life. Seeing everyone run away, Ling Shui came over with a grin. Master, you're so amazing. Master is mighty. Shen Wanyue sighed. Little vixen, do you think you can beg for mercy by acting cute now? That's not realistic. Sure enough, Lin Dong looked at her indifferently. Go back and tie yourself up in the bathroom. No food for a day. They'll release you tomorrow. Ling Shui was stunned. What kind of punishment is this? Ling Shui went back in a daze. Lin Dong patted Jiangzhu's back. Stop squirming. When I take you home, you can squirm for me properly. Jiangzhu was furious. I'm not squirming, miss. I'm trying to get up. Soon people from various buildings came down carrying boxes, and all kinds of supplies piled up into a small mountain. Seeing so many supplies, Lin Dong was quite pleased. Everyone was very obedient. Of course, some people must have hidden plenty of supplies, but he couldn't be bothered to investigate. He was a kind-hearted good citizen after all. How could he not leave others a way to survive? This, big brother, all the supplies in our entire compound except building 3 are here. There are so many things. Do you need me to help you move them to your home? Someone bent over and approached. He was quite clever, planning to earn some goodwill from Lin Dong through hard labor, so that he could at least survive under Lin Dong's control. With him taking the lead, many men rushed over, patting their chests and offering to help. No need, my mate can handle it alone, Lin Dong said with a smile, pointing at Then he rummaged through the supplies, picking out all the cigarettes, flashlights, power banks, and the like. It wasn't too much. One box was enough to hold them. Everyone was dumbfounded. What do you mean? Just these things? Why didn't you say so earlier? If you had said you wanted these, just bring down the cigarettes. Problem solved. Did you have to scare us so much? I thought you wanted food. At that moment, rows of women were brought down. Seeing the mountain of food, they all swallowed their saliva. Big brother, all the women from our several buildings are here. Please take a look. Lin Dong stroked his chin and looked at each one, but soon became disappointed. All were disheveled and unkempt, completely unsightly. So it looks like I need to get out of here soon. Come over and eat, all of you. You look gaunt and sallow. What a sight, Lin Dong suddenly said to them. The women looked at each other in confusion. Shen Wanyue was taken aback. Has the master changed? Being so kind. We can really eat? Someone asked timidly. Lin Dong nodded. With permission, the starving women rushed forward like hungry wolves, tearing open packages and gulping down food. Most of them hadn't had a full meal in a long time. If their bodies weren't still of some value, they would have died long ago. The men grew anxious. This is our food, even though it was stolen from these women. Seeing that the women had nearly eaten their fill, Lin Dong said with a grin, Are you all full? The women nodded one after another. Since you're full, come over here. These things are yours. Lin Dong pointed at the prohibited knives on the ground. The women obediently picked up one weapon each, staring blankly at Lin Dong. What are you looking at me for? Take revenge for grudges, settle scores, Lin Dong said, pointing at the men. The men were in danger. In just 3 seconds, some women's eyes turned red. Li Zhan, you killed my husband and humiliated me. They'll fight you to the death. Someone led the charge, and the other women rushed forward. Some of them had their husbands killed, some had their children killed, and some were simply humiliated, but without exception, they all harbored a deep hatred for these men. Before, they lacked the ability. Now, with full stomachs and weapons, it was the perfect opportunity for revenge. The underground garage instantly erupted into chaos, filled with the sounds of hacking and killing. Meanwhile, Lin Dong smiled slowly, carrying Jiangzhu on his shoulder and leading Shen Wanyue away. Jiangzhu couldn't help but say, letting them go for revenge like this will only hasten their deaths. Indeed, even if these women were well-fed and armed, they still held no advantage against physically strong men. Shen Wanyue sneered, so what? Do you expect my master to seek justice for them? To avenge them? The master's willingness to give them a chance is already a great boon. Rather than being humiliated to death, at least they have fought back, now haven't they? Jiangzhu was left speechless. Back home, Ling Shui had already obediently gone to punish herself. Thud. Lin Dong roughly threw Jiangzhu to the floor. Made you take her to wash up and teach her the rules. Shen Wanyue obediently showed off her custom-made outfit. Yes, master. In the bathroom, Ling Shui stood by watching Shen Wanyue help Jiangzhu wash. His speed, gentle, my arm is broken. Hey, you should be strong too, right? Why don't you resist? If the 3 of us plan carefully, we can definitely kill him. What kind of clothes are these? How can this be worn by a human? Jiangzhu would rather die today, even jump off the building, than wear such clothes. What kind of rules are these? I would never do it even if I die. This still has human rights. Shen Wanyue found it laughable. She actually wanted 2 hours later, Lin Dong lit a cigarette and opened the system panel. Made 3 Jiangzhu. System rating 85. Current strength level 3. Maid outfit none. Not bad, not bad. Beep. Detected that maid Jiang Zhu is severely injured. One-click heal. Oh, the system has this function too. That saves trouble. Jiang Zhu was very curious about this place. Why is it so warm in here? Is it because of that blue glowing block on the table? Why is there hot water here? This house is only about 80 square meters, so where is the food stored? Tell me, where did you get your ability? Lin Dong asked about what concerned him. This time it was Jiang Zhu's turn to be confused. What do you mean? You already have it, why ask me where it came from? Lin Dong frowned. Don't play riddles with me. Speak properly, and maybe it'll help you treat your fracture. Oh, thank you. Jiang Zhu reflexively thanked him, but then thought, damn, didn't you break my arm? On the night of the snowfall, I accidentally touched the snowflakes, but instead of developing pustules like others, I had a high fever. I had a fever for 3 days at home. After the fever subsided, I found that my body had become stronger. Lin Dong frowned. This was unexpected. It seemed that the heavy snow had a very low probability of causing evolution. He feared that after going out he might encounter more superpowered individuals. Besides physical enhancement, are there any other changes? I'm not afraid of the cold. What else? Then are you still afraid of the toxic snow? I dare not try. I fear that trying will lead to dying. After asking many questions, Jiang Zhu answered vaguely and confusedly. Lin Dong finally realized that this girl was not very bright, a bit silly and adorable. Sure enough, the ancients were not wrong. Big chests lead to no brains. Now among these 3 women, Ling Shui and Jiang Zhu were like a pair of numbskulls, while Shun Wanyue, with her big eyes, often shining with wisdom, was much smarter than the two. As expected of a social elite. I've answered all your questions. Hurry up and heal me. Jiang Zhu's 2 arms hung there like a worm, aching terribly. Lin Dong opened the system panel and clicked the heal button. Suddenly a golden light shone on Jiang Zhu's arms. The light quickly faded, and the broken bones had healed, restored to their original state. This is your superpower. Jiang Zhu was shocked. She had prepared to get a cast, but Lin Dong healed her in the blink of an eye. Shen Wanyue was equally astonished. The more Lin Dong displayed, the more she revered him. Miraculous thermal clothing, a constant temperature, small block, a golden pistol, seemingly unlimited food, and hot water, the ability to grant them strength to conjure things out of thin air, and now terrifying healing ability. Did he keep a doryman? How did he have everything? Lin Dong ignored her, propping his temple as he thought about the future situation. It couldn't be that all other awakened ones were as weak as Jiang Zhu. Some might even have special abilities. So system, can you be sensible and quickly raise my level? Seeing her hands heal, Jiang Zhu regained her arrogance. Let me tell you, don't think that just because you did that to me I will like you. There's no way you'll follow your lewd maid rules. I'd rather die than be your dog. Shun Wanyue panicked on the spot. Hey girl, I just finished teaching you, and you're already breaking the rules. If you want to die, don't drag me into it. Lin Dong looked up, his eyes slightly narrowed, revealing a dangerous smile. Have you thought it through? No need to think. I, Jiang Zhu, will never allow a man to ride on my snap. Before she could finish, Lin Dong had already struck like lightning, grabbing her neck and lifting her with one hand. His strong, powerful hand instantly squeezed her snow-white neck, causing it to become congested. Jiang Zhu's face flushed red, her heart involuntarily raced, as if it would leap out of her chest, and her legs began to struggle violently. Jiang Zhu couldn't help but open her mouth wide, trying to pry Lin Dong's hand away, but she couldn't. Shen Wanyue was so frightened that she knelt down. It's over, it's over. Indeed, the master was not an ordinary lecher. He had no idea what it meant to be gentle with a woman. No matter how beautiful you were, if you violated his rules, the outcome was death. Heh. Jiang Zhu tried to say something. Crack. The sound of bone breaking came. Jiang Zhu's pupils dilated, her neck twisted to one side, and she completely stopped breathing. Throwing her corpse to the floor, Lin Dong couldn't help but frown. Damn, it stinks. Beep. Detected death of maid Jiang Zhu. One-click resurrection. This fucking works. System, you're too damn overpowered. Then, resurrect and kill again. Revive. In an instant, golden light surged again from Jiang Zhu's body. Her broken neck realigned, her unfocused pupils gradually contracted, and her heart began to beat. Ugh. Jiang Zhu opened her eyes, immediately sat up, gasping involuntarily, clutching her neck, utterly terrified. Shun Wanyue and Ling Shui, who had poked her head out from the bathroom, both stared wide-eyed. Holy crap. She could revive after dying. Lin Dong grinned and leaned in. Revived, then die again. He reached out and grabbed her neck once more. Jiang Zhu's eyes widened in horror. This person was a maniac. The suffocation and death she had just experienced were terrifying beyond anything she had ever felt. It seemed her soul had been dragged into an utterly pitch-black place, too frightening. No. Don't kill. Crack. She died again. Hee fun. Revive again. Lin Dong now laughed like a madman. Jiang Zhu revived once more. No, I want leave. He'll obey you. He'll be your maidservant. Just awakened, Jiang Zhu dropped to her knees and begged for mercy without a second thought. How terrifying. He wasn't human. He was a demon. Lin Dong frowned in displeasure. I still like your arrogant attitude from before. Get it back. I dare not, master. I will be obedient from now on. Please don't kill me. Jiang Zhu's delicate body trembled uncontrollably. She never wanted to experience death again. Alright, I'll give you one chance. Next time. Rest assured, master, there won't be a next time. Go wash yourself. And so the third maidservant Jiang Zhu became completely docile. During lunch, a phone ringtone sounded from inside Jiang Zhu's down jacket. Lin Dong took out the phone and found it still had full battery. The caller ID was Beichin. Despite the power and water outages, the communication base stations were still working. The three major carriers were impressive. He handed the phone to Jiang Zhu, who answered. Hello, Xiaozhu, how are you? I sent you messages this morning and you didn't reply. I was worried something happened to you. Did you find the shooter in your neighborhood? A clear, forceful voice came from the other end. Jiang Zhu glanced fearfully at Lin Dong. I'm fine, Beichin. The shooter was found. Anyway, I'm safe now. Don't worry. That's good. Xiaozhu, please stay safe. He'll contact you every day. As soon as the snow melts, he'll send someone to pick you up. I'm okay. It hurts. What's wrong, Xiaozhu? Noth. I'm fine. I just hurt my arm this morning. He'll put some ointment on it. Xiaozhu, hang in there. Once I can bring you over, he'll never let you be alone again. Okay. The call ended. Lin Dong paused, a strange expression on his face. Your fiancé never touched you. He's been quite chaste, huh? Jiang Zhu bit her lip, her eyes misty. Master, my fiancé and I agreed long ago to wait until our wedding night. How wonderful. Such a rare thing in this day and age. Pure luck for me. So where is this fiancé of yours? Master, what are you going to do? None of your business. Answer my question. Master, please don't hurt him. Beichin. He is innocent. Did I say I was going to hurt him? After listening to Jiang Zhu's account, Lin Dong was astonished. Her fiancé Xia Beichin was the head of a huge conglomerate in Jiangxing, a true tycoon. Lin Dong had once delivered a package to the Xia Group headquarters, but the security guard at the entrance had stopped him. Still, that didn't stop him from admiring that landmark building in Jiangxing. Only the elite working class could enter. Who would have thought that a little-known yoga teacher had climbed so high? It was like a cheesy idol drama come to life. From what your fiancé said, he still has the authority to send people to pick you up. Could the poisonous snow not affect him? Lin Dong spotted a blind spot. Jiang Zhu pressed her forehead to the floor and stammered, Beichin's family is the Xia family of Jiangxing, a very powerful clan. Beichin said his family had prepared in advance. They stockpiled large amounts of supplies and also equipped themselves with armed forces to face the apocalypse. Lin Dong paused his pedaling and narrowed his eyes. Apart from himself, the Xia family had also prepared for the apocalypse. Did the Xia family have means to detect the poisonous snow in advance? Or was this poisonous snow man-made, and the Xia family was one of the participants? Good. That makes it interesting. Next time your fiancé calls, make sure your voice is loud enough, Lin Dong whispered in her ear. Jiang Zhu's face turned pale. To celebrate the new maidservant's arrival, lunch was a luxurious KFC combo because it happened to be Thursday. Ling Shui smelled the aroma and couldn't help poking her head out, looking pitiful. Master, hungry. In the past, none of the maidservants would have liked such high-calorie food, but as the saying goes, before the apocalypse you ignored it, after the apocalypse you can't afford it. The steaming supreme burger, the golden fried chicken legs, and the sizzling roast chicken. How delicious. Seeing Ling Shui made Lin Dong furious. This silly girl had just gained a little power and became smug. Without any combat experience, she had dared to boast on his behalf. How embarrassing. It seemed none of the three maidservants had any combat experience. If they encountered other awakened beings, they would probably lose. Even if he could help them level up, he couldn't do everything himself. Therefore, combat training was necessary. After a moment's thought, Lin Dong took 2 kitchen knives from the kitchen and tossed them in front of Shen Wanyue and Jiang Zhu. After lunch, you two go to the underground garage and fight each other with these knives. Practice your hand-to-hand skills. I don't want to see another disgraceful situation like the snow maidservants. The 2 women were dumbfounded. Come on, officers, starting with kitchen knives for a duel. Isn't that a bit too much? Seeing that neither dared to pick up the knives, Lin Dong smiled. What are you afraid of? Even if you get hurt or die, I can bring you back. Go ahead and slash. The 2 women remained silent. Master's reasoning is so sound I have no words to refute. Jiang Zhu couldn't help but look up. Master, why don't you train with us? I don't need to. Lin Dong patted his chest. Why the hell would I practice? I don't need any skill. Pure stats crushing is enough. Hiss. I ate KFC, not Wallace. Why is my stomach reacting so fast? Lin Dong suddenly felt discomfort in his stomach and went to the toilet. After finishing his business, he took the 2 women and grabbed cleavers, heading to the underground garage. At first they held back, chopping for a long time, After finishing his business, he took the 2 women and grabbed cleavers, heading to the underground garage. At first they held back, chopping for a long time, In an instant the expressions of both women changed. Fierceness, killing intent, and fear that couldn't be concealed. They would rather be chopped into 8 pieces than be tied up. Oh. In the underground garage, the two women's cleavers struck, sparks, blood, and flesh flying everywhere. A terrifying scene. Jiang Zhu, being 1 level higher, always dominated Shen Wanyue, soon chopping off her left ear and fingers. But Shen Wanyue also went berserk, seemingly oblivious to pain, fighting desperately, and even biting off a piece of Jiang Zhu's flesh with her teeth. The two women exchanged blows until their blades were blunted. Finally, after 2 minutes, Shen Wanyue fell, clutching her neck in unwilling defeat. Her level was still too low. But Jiang Zhu was not much better, with a huge hole in her belly bleeding profusely. Resurrect. Heal. The next second, 2 golden lights flashed, and both women were fully restored. First round, maidservant, you loses. Now second round begins, same punishment. Oh. The two women started chopping again. Admittedly, though brutal, this method was effective. The two women's fighting styles grew increasingly ferocious, like mad dogs fighting to the death, rapidly accumulating combat experience. They fought until nightfall before Lin Dong announced the end of training. Over the half-day, Shen Wanyue made astonishing progress, bursting with inner potential during battle and leveling up to level 3. From not winning a single match at the start to occasionally winning one, and then to a near-even split, it was truly inspiring and moving. As a result, over those hours, Shen Wanyue died 173 times, and Jiang Zhu died 92 times. This forced both women to become immune to death. As a result, over those hours, Shen Wanyue died 173 times, and Jiang Zhu died 92 times. This forced both women to This was torture. At midnight, Lin Dong's new day reward arrived. Ding. Today's sign-in reward options are as follows. 1. Infinite cold weapons. 2. Medical emergency kit includes all kinds of market medical supplies, everything you need. 3. Poison immunity talent. 4. A double yolk egg that tastes delicious no matter how you cook it. He routinely ignored option 4. I choose 3. After confirming the reward, Lin Dong felt a warm current coursing through his body, then nothing else. Time to take a risk and test if this talent works. Licking his lips, Lin Dong opened the bedroom window. Thick snow had piled up there, hard as bricks. Taking a deep breath, Lin Dong extended his hand and slapped the snow pile, then waited silently. After about 10 minutes, he withdrew his hand with a smile. Good, the biggest threat to himself was gone. Now it was time to figure out how to get out. Jiyuan compound was now shrouded in gloom. At least 80 of the remaining supplies in the entire compound had been squandered by Lin Dong's women, leaving the survivors a very hard life. The building kings had lost their desire to rob each other. They sneaked together at night to discuss how to survive the coming days. Damn it, Lin Dong is truly inhuman. I only have half a sausage left, and he'll starve tomorrow. Alas, what can we do? We can't beat him, and he has guns. We're helpless. Damn, just thinking about Lin Dong sleeping with 3 beauties while we starve here makes me so angry I can't sleep. But in the end, these were just useless complaints. Among them, the building king of Building 11, smoking a cigarette, his glasses flashing with a mad gleam in the firelight, slowly spoke. Everyone, actually, there are other ways to survive. The others were stunned. In this situation, what other way could there be? Zhang Xian, tell us. Zhang Xian was the building king of Building 11, looked about 30, wearing wire-rimmed glasses, a typical intellectual appearance. But being a building king, he was certainly not as simple as he looked. Zhang Xian licked his dry, cracked lips and sneered, "Don't forget, human flesh is also meat." Everyone simultaneously held their breath. They never expected Zhang Xian to come up with such a terrible idea. In this apocalyptic world where rules had collapsed, they could kill wantonly and act lawlessly, but none of them had ever considered cannibalism. This wasn't about morality, but human instinct. Once that line was crossed, they would hardly deserve to be called human. What? Everyone sitting here whose hands aren't stained with blood. Afraid of this? Zhang Xian mocked. You just haven't been hungry enough yet. This is the apocalypse. What does human ethics matter? Nothing is more important than survival. However, the others still remained silent. Such a thing was still too hard. Fine, then we'll have to fight to the death. Zhang Xian ruffled his messy hair. Everyone, since Lin Dong isn't letting us live, what do we have to fear? If we don't fight, are we just going to starve to death here? Someone retorted. Easy for you to say. With Lin Dong's displayed combat power, even if we fight, we'll probably just die. Zhang Xian glanced out the window, then smiled coldly. Tell me, since Lin Dong is so powerful, why does he stay cooped up in the compound instead of going out? The man reflexively answered, it's because of the poisonous snow outside, he can't. Then he realized, his eyes lighting up. Zhang Xian's glasses reflected a cold glint. Seems you're not that stupid. The biggest difference between humans and animals is that humans use tools, and we definitely can't beat him in a frontal assault. I suggest we send a few people with proper protection to shovel some snow, and secretly bring it to Lin Dong. As long as we get the snow on Lin Dong, he'll be dead for sure. Everyone immediately became excited, slapping their foreheads. That makes sense. We've been so terrified of the poisonous snow that we forgot it could become our weapon. Let's do it. They'll send someone to shovel snow now. Hey, we need to be careful when throwing the snow. Don't kill those beauties in his house. They dared to burn our supplies, so those women will pay for his debts. Keep it quiet. 𝑃. People sleep the deepest, that's when we act. Zhang Xian stood up, stretched his limbs, and walked to the window, gazing at the pitch-black sky. Suddenly a star appeared in the sky. 𝑃. Zhang Xian stealthily led a dozen people to the third floor of Building 5, with nearly 100 more hiding in the stairwell. It was clear how much Lin Dong was despised. Almost all the young and able-bodied residents of the community had come. Start prying the door. Zhang Xian waved his hand, and soon 2 burly men approached the door with crowbars used for construction. A loud creak echoed. Shen Wanyue and Jiang Zhu, who had been sleeping at the foot of the sofa, instantly woke up, while Ling Shui, leaning against the bathroom wall, opened her eyes in a daze. The bedroom door opened and Lin Dong emerged with a grim face. He had heard the commotion the moment the intruders entered the third floor. Master. What's this? The women quickly dressed. Lin Dong waved his hand. Release the snow maid and get ready to fight. Damn it, you dare to break in at this hour. They'll make you pay. Crack. Under the violent force of the crowbars, the door finally gave way and a dozen people poured in. Get him. Without a word, several men pulled black plastic bags from behind their backs and hurled them at Lin Dong. Master, let me. Ling Shui, finally free, didn't think twice before trying to prove herself. She grabbed a nearby Kipalang garment and with a series of sharp slaps, tore the bags, but the next second she burst into tears. A flurry of snow scattered, and in the cramped room there was no way to dodge. The 3 women and Lin Dong were all covered in the snow. Ha ha ha, got him. Ha ha ha, Lin Dong, you're dead. Not 2 women but 3. Damn. How did you throw it? These women got hit by the snow too. Doesn't that mean they're doomed? Ling Shui realized she had made another mistake, sobbing as she looked at Lin Dong. Master. I am sorry. Lin Dong brushed the snow off his head, his face darkening as he glared at her. Their punishment is all yours. Shen Wanyue and Jiang Zhu exchanged glances, overjoyed. Together they would have been confined to the bathroom for nearly a year, but now Ling Shui had taken it all on herself. She was such a good person. Woo-woo. Ling Shui wailed, wishing she could die. Zhang Xian emerged from the crowd, adjusted his glasses with his middle finger, and sneered. Lin Dong, didn't expect this, did you? You've done so much evil, denying others the right to live in these parts. Now it's time for you to taste the flavor of death. Lin Dong looked at him, then suddenly burst into laughter, the sound growing louder. What are you laughing at? Zhang Xian's heart sank. Why was Lin Dong so calm? And these women were also unexpectedly composed. I'm laughing at your stupidity. Lin Dong shot a meaningful glance, and the 3 women skillfully pulled out stools, retrieved cigarettes, and lit them, all in one fluid motion, leaving the others stunned. Damn, they executed it so smoothly. You thought of using poison snow against me, so you did use your brains. But didn't you think to investigate the onset time of the poison snow beforehand? From contact with the poison snow to death takes 5 minutes. And you just barged in without fearing that I could take you all down within those 5 minutes. The crowd froze, cold sweat breaking out on their backs. Even Zhang Xian's eyes darkened sharply. He truly hadn't known that. In fact, everyone had been so terrified of the poison snow that no one had thought to analyze the symptoms of poisoning. Lin Dong picked up a handful of snow from the floor, formed it into a small snowball, and continued with a smirk. Second, what if I told you this snow is no longer poisonous? Would you believe me? Is that possible? A torrent of curses flashed through everyone's minds. If the snow wasn't poisonous, what was there to fear? They could just shovel it away and scavenge for supplies instead of starving here. But could Lin Dong's words be trusted? Lin Dong struck like lightning, hurling the snowball at Zhang Xian's head. Smack! Zhang Xian finally lost his composure, frantically wiping the snow from his face, his eyes filled with terror. Lin Dong stood up and walked over to him. What are you panicking about? Want to bet whether this snow will poison you to death? Zhang Xian was trembling with fear, his mind racing with guesses. Is the snow poisonous or not? Damn it. How did it come to this? Is the snow not poisonous, or is Lin Dong bluffing? Why isn't he afraid at all? Why could he stay so calm? Was it really non-toxic? To be fair, people with quick minds tend to overthink in situations like this. He was scared. Those who had survived this long cherished their lives. Sorry. Smack. Lin Dong slapped him across the face. Don't beg for mercy. Just bet with me. Will you die from the poison or not? Zhang Xian was on the verge of tears. I bet I won't die from the poison. Then let's wait and see. Lin Dong stood up with a cold smile, clapping his hands. Maid's time for us. Yes, master. The 3 women didn't worry about whether the snow was poisonous. They blindly trusted their master. They rushed to the balcony, scooped up snow-formed snowballs, and hurled them at the intruders. Damn, don't hit my face. Smack, smack. Hey, this snow tastes a bit sweet. Damn it, run. I don't want to be a poison test rat. Fuck. Stop pushing in. Let me out. They still didn't dare to gamble on whether the snow was poisonous or not. In total, over 100 people, both inside and outside, were routed by 3 weak women with snowballs. They even charged out of the stairwell. Ling Shui shoveled snow, Shun Wanyue carried buckets, and Jiang Zhu did the throwing. The scene was oddly joyful. Ding. Detected that made Shun Wanyue is poisoned. Perform one-click detox. Detected that made Jiang Zhu. Checking. Lin Dong squinted with a smile at the system panel. System, you're being a bit disobedient, huh? Why can the maids get one-click detox while I have to grind for toxin immunity? Are you playing favorites? Detoxify. It seemed that even though Jiang Zhu had gained abilities through the poison snow, she still wasn't immune. Zhang Xian was dragged by Lin Dong by the scruff of his neck into the underground garage, watching the three women have a snowball fight. Seeing over 100 people he had brought being taunted and pelted by three giggling women, he felt his worldview shatter. Suddenly, he felt an itch on his body. What's happening to me? Zhang Xian was terrified. Lin Dong tore off his down jacket sweater and thermal shirt, revealing his arm. Now greenish pustules were beginning to appear, rapidly swelling. I'm poisoned. How? How is this possible? Zhang Xian was horrified. So the snow was still poisonous, but why was Lin Dong unaffected? Watching Lin Dong calmly smoke without any sign of poisoning Zhang Xian was utterly defeated. No. Don't. I don't want to die. But the poisoned snow was merciless. Once the 5 minutes passed, death came instantly. Zhang Xian's eyes bulged, his face twisted in agony, and he died. Not only Zhang Xian, but others also suddenly developed symptoms. Pustules began to appear on their faces and hands. Is this snow poisonous? No. Don't. Save me. I was wrong. They'll fight you bitches. The three women simultaneously stopped, their hands trembling as they watched these people die from poisoning, exchanging glances. Damn. Then what about us? Ling Shui hurriedly checked her arms and legs, then breathed a sigh of relief. As long as it's not damaged, it's fine. Although they wouldn't die because of Lin Dong's presence, the symptoms of poisoning were incredibly terrifying for women. The pustules on their faces burst, making them uglier than movie zombies, a sight reminiscent of that world-famous banned mermaid film. A more terrifying thing than death is dying hideously. About 30 men howled and fell to the ground, their eyes wide and postures twisted, but they were quickly frozen stiff by the -40°C temperature. Master, are we okay? Shun Wanyue asked nervously. Lin Dong smirked. What do you think? Seeing Lin Dong so calm, Shun Wanyue finally let out a long sigh. Jiang Zhu's eyes glimmered faintly as she thought she must have gained immunity from the poisonous snow. I forgot to mention, I only have the ability to detoxify you, not to make you immune to toxins. If you want to try and see if you can resist it, I'm quite looking forward to it. Lin Dong seemed to sense something, a smile spreading across his face. Thud. The three women simultaneously knelt. Master, we want try. A joke. Being able to detoxify and being immune are two different concepts. If you secretly try poison behind Lin Dong's back, he really won't save you. Lin Dong clapped his hands. Alright, starting now, hide behind me. I'm going to do an experiment. The three women obediently hid. Lin Dong took out a thermostatic furnace, and the temperature within a 3-meter radius instantly rose, enveloping Zhang Xian. Under the terrified gaze of the three women, Zhang Xian's corpse thawed, his fingers began to move slightly, and a low growl came from his throat. The sound grew louder, and his body began to twist violently. Ling Shui couldn't help covering her mouth in shock. Indeed, this scene was very familiar to anyone who had watched movies. Zombie. Lin Dong narrowed his eyes. As he had guessed, the toxin in the poisonous snow was the zombie virus. The low temperature had frozen the virus, but once the temperature rose, the zombies would come back to life. While this made it impossible for survivors hoping for sunshine to survive. Roar. Zhang Xian roared and stood up. His eye sockets had no pupils, but he stared strangely at Lin Dong. The next moment he charged. At least level 2 speed, Lin Dong continued to comment. When Zhang Xian got close, he kicked him away, causing cracks in the load-bearing pillar. Close to level 3 strength and defense. Feeling the recoil from his palm, Lin Dong had a rough understanding of the zombie's level. However, Zhang Xian still struggled to get up and charged again with a twisted posture, roaring. This time Lin Dong did not hold back. He slapped his head to pieces. While he had to admit it was indeed strong. He was just an ordinary person before death, but after death, he could possess such strength. Truly too fierce. You know, when Shun Wanyue was level 2, she could take on 10 adult men. At level 3, she could at least take on 20 or 30 alone. However, zombies have such strength as soon as they wake up. How can ordinary people survive? The zombie virus is awesome. Alas, it seemed he needed to help these maids level up quickly. If the temperature rose and zombies erupted one day, could he rely on himself alone to resist them? Alas, really exhausting. Master, what is this? Shun Wanyue looked at Zhang Xian's headless corpse in fear. Lin Dong said as he walked back, you saw it too. The poisonous snow contains the zombie virus. Once it encounters high temperature, they will wake up. Just like in the movies, you have to destroy the head for it to be effective. The three women shuddered simultaneously. Good heavens, no one knew how many people had been poisoned to death in the entire neighborhood. All of them were zombies. Once they broke out with their pitiful strength, they would be swallowed by the zombie horde in an instant. For a moment, the three women ran faster. Being with the master was safer. Jiang Zhu's expression turned strange. Then, am I mutated? Just didn't turn into a zombie. That's right. And I believe you're not the only one. I'm afraid there are already many awakened ones with special abilities like you outside. So speed up leveling. The sun was high in the sky. Lin Dong stretched and walked to the balcony looking at the sun appearing in the sky, his eyes becoming... It had been a week since the apocalypse, and this was the first time the sun had come out. However, the temperature hadn't risen much. It was at most minus 30 degrees Celsius outside. It seemed the zombie outbreak would still take some time. But the other people in the neighborhood were almost prostrating to the sun. Finally seeing sunlight, this terrifying heavy snow should be over right. Jiang Zhu's phone rang at the right moment. Xiao Zhu, great, the sun is out. The snow outside should melt soon. Hold on a little longer, I'll send someone to pick you up soon. Okay. It's fine, no rush. Xiao Zhu, are you still sleeping? You sound tired. Yeah, I'm very sleepy. Last night there was a riot. As the building king, I spent a long time how are you? Did he bully you? He was too strong, but I'm fine, don't worry. That's good. Xiao Zhu, I miss you. Let's have a video call. Hearing about a video call, Jiang Zhu immediately sat up. Oh no, now is not the time for a video call. But I still want to sleep. How about next time? There was a long silence on the other end, followed by a long sigh. All right, Xiao Zhu, rest well. We'll call when you have time. Just remember, I love you. I love you too. That's it, I'm hanging up. After hanging up, Jiang Zhu stared blankly at her phone. The guilt of deceiving her fiancé made her completely awake. Even saying, love you, was so difficult and awkward. When did she change? She had only been captured by Lin Dong for a day. Could it be that she was really that kind of shameless woman? On the other side of Jiangqing, more than 50 kilometers from the Jiyuan community, an expansive manor stood in stark contrast to its surroundings. Outside the manor walls, snow piled up to 2 stories high, yet within the grounds there was not a trace of snow. Numerous servants in down jackets moved about, and in the pond goldfish swam leisurely while flowers bloomed along the walls. It was as if the manor remained untouched by the apocalyptic blizzard. This was the Xia family manor. On the eastern side of the manor, a young man in a suit and gold-rimmed glasses sat indoors, hanging up the phone with a sense of loss. He stared blankly at the photo of himself and Jiang Zhu on the wall. This man was Xia Beichen, one of Jiangqing's top 10 outstanding youth, CEO of the Xia Group, a golden son-in-law with a plethora of prestigious titles. As Xia Beichen was about to leave, the door burst open and a tall figure strode in. Xia Qingyu. She emerged as if stepping out of a painting, clad in an elegant home outfit. Her skin was as white as snow, her large, sparkling eyes bright and clear, yet they carried a cold, sharp glint. Her nose was high and straight, accentuating the smooth lines of her face. Her long hair cascaded over her shoulders, and she stood at about 167 centimeters. Her figure was not explosively voluptuous, but rather softly curved like the girl next door, yet she exuded an aura as powerful as a queen. Jiangqing's little pride, the superstar Xia Qingyu. Sis, what are you doing here? The domineering CEO Xia Beichen quickly put away his phone, his expression slightly awkward, as if he was afraid. Jiangqing's little pride, the superstar Xia Qingyu. Sis, what are you doing here? The domineering CEO Xia Beichen quickly put away his phone, his expression slightly awkward, as if he was afraid of her. Even when looking at her own brother Xia Qingji's demeanor remained icy. Beichen, are you still in touch with that dance teacher? She's still alive. Xia Beichen choked, about to retort loudly, but after meeting his sister's gaze, he involuntarily lowered his voice. Sis, Xiao Zhu is a yoga teacher. She'll be your sister-in-law one day. Isn't it too harsh to talk about dying? What difference does it make? Xia Qingyu sneered. Even with so many people dead worldwide, not every piece of trash can marry into the Xia family. If you don't want to anger father, you'd better give up. Xia Beichen was speechless, but his face still showed stubbornness. Sis Xiao Zhu has awakened her ability. She's the overlord of a whole building now. Oh, Xia Qingyu's icy expression finally showed a hint of surprise. She's lucky, but with her lowly background, even with an ability, her strength won't amount to much. Without serum, she'll be only slightly better than an ordinary person for the rest of her life, still a waste. Sis, if I marry Xiao Zhu, our family can provide for her. You're dreaming. That's impossible. Don't bring it up again, or you'll lose the right to inject serum. With that, she strode away with a haughty gait. Xia Beichen watched his sister's retreating figure, speechless and choked with emotion. The entire Jiyuan community was eerily quiet that morning. No one fought, no one caused trouble, partly because Lin Dong had burned all their food, leaving them with nothing to fuss over. On the other hand, everyone was eagerly waiting for the snow to melt, completely hoping that order might be restored and the authorities might come to rescue them. Many also feared being held accountable afterward, so they all involuntarily cowered. Though the temperature remained bitterly cold, most people were still kneeling in prayer, begging the snow to melt quickly. But events rarely unfolded as most wished. At noon, dark clouds once again shrouded the sky, and heavy snowflakes began to fall. Why? Why are you so cruel, heaven? Why must it keep snowing? Whoa, we can't get out never. Are we doomed to die here? Oh, I can't take it anymore. Damn this apocalypse. Ha ha ha, snow on. I won't be held accountable. I can still do whatever I want. Had this hopeless life. I really don't want to go on. Many, unable to bear the swing from ecstasy to despair, chose to jump off buildings, thudding into the snow one after another. I could have endured the darkness if I had never seen the light. This time the sun seemed intent on tormenting them, driving those who had been holding on to choose suicide. Perhaps death was a release from this sorrowful world. Shun Wanyue and Ling Shui stood by the window watching figures occasionally plummet into the snow, their eyes heavy with solemnity. Of course, they were merely lamenting the fragility of life, not drowning in overblown sentimentality. After all, without Lin Dong, their own fates would have been far more tragic, and jumping to their deaths would have been a merciful end. At midnight, the rewards refreshed. Ding. Today's check-in reward options are as follows. 1. High-tech apocalyptic RV, no energy required, self-powered. 2. 1000 barrels of fuel. 3. Multifunctional hardware accessory kit. 4. A ridiculously fun board game. Lin Dong, who had been eagerly waiting, abruptly sat up. Damn. Finally, I choose option 1. The apocalyptic RV had appeared before, but he had passed it up for other rewards. Now it was here. It had, in the system space, a dark gold RV comparable to a large armored vehicle appeared. It was 20 meters long, 10 meters wide, and 8 meters high, shaped like a tank with tracks. It came equipped with an icebreaker and internal temperature control. The interior boasted all the amenities of a large RV, and its exterior was incredibly durable, capable of withstanding sustained RPG rocket fire. A perfect tool for exploring the apocalypse in style. With it, he could go out and rescue those beautiful girls in need. Just as Lin Dong was planning his travel route, his phone suddenly rang. To his great surprise, it was a voice message from Zhao Yufei. She was actually still alive. After a moment's thought, Lin Dong answered the call. Hello, Lin Dong. You're alive. Thank goodness, thank goodness. What is it? Lin Dong, I miss you so much, I miss you so much. Whoa, is that so? I miss myself too. Zhao Yufei on the other end was taken aback. In the past, when she had threatened to break up, a few tears and a sob story would always make Lin Dong melt with concern, and he would do everything to comfort her, buying her favorite snacks or handbags. Why was he so cold now? But considering the apocalypse, she figured he was just a bit shaken, so she could understand. Lin Dong, I admit I was too harsh when I sent you that breakup message. But after these days, I've come to realize my true feelings. I love you. I'm hungry and cold, on the verge of death. I just want to see you one last time before I die. If I can't see the man I love most in my final moments, I'll die. Look at her. So adept at playing the victim. You want to see me? You're really just hoping I'll bring you food and drinks, aren't you? You're even better at freeloading than Ling Shui. Lin Dong's chest heaved violently as he suppressed his rage, then asked softly, Where are you? At dawn, Lin Dong arrived at the window and was instantly speechless with exasperation. Damn, it had been snowing since yesterday noon, and the snow had piled up. Pack up your things, we're going out, Lin Dong announced after breakfast. The three women were taken aback, then burst into enthusiastic cheers. Great. We can finally go out. I want to go to the mall to pick clothes. I want to do zero-cost shopping. By the way, how do we get out? Lin Dong led them to the vehicle entrance of the underground garage. With a wave of his hand, the apocalypse RV appeared. All this. The three women were stunned. Master, you had this good thing all along. Why didn't you bring it out earlier? Awesome. Master, I want to drive. Ling Shui raised her hand excitedly. Lin Dong sat on the sofa and laughed. You know how to drive. All right, you drive. The next second. Sorry, I didn't expect it to be this kind of vehicle. Shin Wanyue smiled wryly, then he'll drive. Where should we go first? Head towards Jiangxing University of Science and Technology. If we pass any malls along the way, we can stop, and you can go pick out clothes. Finally able to go out, Lin Dong was in a good mood. The 3rd District Traffic Commission of Jiangxing City reminds you there are thousands of road safety is the first. If you drive improperly, just go for it. Lin Dong and the others were startled, then couldn't help shaking their heads and laughing. This RV was quite user-friendly. Beep, beep, beep. The RV started crashing through the garage entrance and the snow. Its immense destructive force leveled everything in its path. The windshield thoughtfully displayed a VR projection clearly showing all the snow-buried buildings and surroundings. The RV burst out of the snow, plowing a huge trench across the residential area as it slowly headed toward the gate. People in the buildings spotted the behemoth and, ignoring the falling snow, leaned out and shouted for help. Stop! Take me out, please take me out. I haven't gotten on yet. Please take my child away. He's still young, give him a chance to live. But the RV's soundproofing was too good. Or even if Lin Dong heard, he wouldn't care. Seeing that the RV wasn't stopping, some people, forced by desperation, started jumping onto the RV and pounding on the roof with angry shouts. Detected that the RV is under attack. Use countermeasures. Lin Dong sneered, counterattack. Zzz. The vehicle's metal shell suddenly emitted a blue light. The people who had jumped on were instantly electrocuted, falling weakly from the roof into the snow. Some even fell in front of the RV, watching helplessly as the huge tracks rolled toward them. Please. Splat. The tracks rolled over, leaving a trail of blood, and only the desperate howls of the people in Jiyuan residential area remained. There's a game that makes you younger as you play its game for peace on your phone. No one calls you bro here, because they all call you elementary schooler. The RV was playing energetic music. Shen Wanyue was driving, Lin Dong and Ling Shui were also driving, playing games, while Jiangzhu leaned against the window, staring blankly at the scene outside. Everything was white with no streets visible. Only by recognizing familiar buildings could they tell where they were. It looked very much like the scenery in The Wandering Little. The RV moved slowly at about 30 kilometers per hour. After half an hour, they finally spotted a mall. Walmart Mall. It was a well-known large shopping center. Carefully parking the RV at the mall entrance, they dressed properly and got out. The RV's built-in snow-clearing function had already cleared a safe area. Let's go pick out some clothes. As Lin Dong finished speaking, he suddenly looked up. Through the frost-covered glass, he saw that there were actually people inside the mall looking at them. But if you talk about where the easiest place to survive in the apocalypse is, a mall is indeed a good choice. It has restaurants, supermarkets, and stores selling clothes and bedding much better than the residential area. The mall's doors had been closed long ago, but that didn't trouble Lin Dong. He tore open the iron door with his bare hands and led the three women inside. The mall was pitch black. As soon as they entered, a flashlight beam immediately shone on them. Who are you? How did you get in? Lin Dong smiled and said, just passing through. We have no clothes at home, so we came to pick some. What? The questioner was stunned. Did you think this was a damn? These girls are really beautiful, like fairies. Damn, aren't they cold? They're just wearing trench coats. Today the three women were all in black trench coats that concealed their stunning figures, stepping in high heels with snow-white ankles showing and wearing crystal necklaces. They were like delicate roses in the icy snow. Lin Dong heard the sound of them swallowing saliva. He also took out his flashlight and turned it on, immediately shocked. Holy crap! So many people. The mall had 4 floors. Looking up from the open area, he could see at least 100 figures moving around. Didn't the snow start at midnight? The mall had already closed for the night, right? But after seeing the cinema sign on the 4th floor, Lin Dong understood. These must have been the audience of the midnight movie. When they walked out and found the poisonous snow, they took shelter in the mall, presumably surviving on the mall's vast supplies. A burly man with a bushy beard came over, smiling. Brother, you came from outside. We want to ask, is the snow still poisonous? Is there any rescue team coming to save us? Lin Dong spread his hands. Of course it's still poisonous, and there's no rescue team. The bearded man sighed deeply, then suddenly looked up at the RV outside, showing a malicious smile. Brother, that RV. How many people can it take? Lin Dong laughed dismissively. What does it have to do with you whether it can take people? Even if it could, can you find a better place than this mall? At least the supplies here are enough for you people to survive for a long time. The burly man was speechless. At that moment the crowd parted automatically, and a figure wrapped in bulky clothing came to the front. Seeing her, the bearded man immediately switched to a smiling face. Miss Liang, you're here. From the appearance, one couldn't tell the person's face or even gender, but Lin Dong recognized through those bright eyes that this was a woman, and a very beautiful woman at that. Interesting. The mall seemed unusually harmonious. Such a beautiful woman hadn't been taken. Judging by the reactions of others after her appearance, they seemed to hold some awe for this woman. The woman saluted and said, "Hello, I am Liang Jihan, a safety officer from Fuan District, Jiangxing City. Now your vehicle is being requisitioned." Lin Dong's expression immediately soured. "Miss Liang, is it? I'm glad you offered your respects to Brother Dong, but I really don't like the way you speak or your tone." Shen Wanyue and the other 2 women sneered coldly. Did this woman still think it was before the apocalypse that she could just use someone else's car? Liang Jihan was taken aback, finally realizing things were different now. Her request was essentially robbery. "Sorry, I misspoke. May I ask your name?" "Lin Dong." "Mr. Lin, could you come this way? Let's talk." "All right." Lin Dong nodded and told the 3 women to wander around on their own. They were all level 4 now, so there was nothing to worry about. "Great. There's a LV store over there. It'll check if there are any bags left. The 2nd floor has lingerie shops. We need to stock up on a few sets." "They'll just look around." The 3 women scattered joyfully. The bearded man narrowed his eyes, exchanged glances with his companions, and they each followed. Liang Jihan led Lin Dong toward the 4th floor, unable to help asking, "Mr. Lin, are these ladies your maids at home?" Liang Jihan felt she couldn't understand this man. Who would use such beautiful maids? Probably the kind of improper maids. Mr. Lin, I'd better advise them not to wander around. It's not safe here. It's fine, they're adults, no need to watch them every second. All right. They walked to an empty shop in the corner of the 4th floor where a campfire was burning. Liang Jihan fetched a stool and invited Lin Dong to sit down, then took off her thick down jacket, revealing her perfect curves and delicate features. Liang Jihan's facial features were very chiseled, like finely crafted porcelain. Though her long hair hadn't been washed for days, it remained smooth. Her small, delicate mouth was well defined. She stood about 170 centimeters tall, with long, straight legs. Even through the thick sweater, her impressive figure was evident. Definitely, at least a cup. Rating-wise around 83 or 84. How come none of the men in this mall had made a move on someone so beautiful? But when he noticed the bulging holster on her waist, Lin Dong understood. So it was the power of truth. Mr. Lin, can you tell me what's going on outside? I just came from my neighborhood too. I don't know much about the outside. It's like in the movies. Snow covered the whole city, and there's no one on the streets. Sigh. Liang Jihan sighed deeply and began to share her story. It turned out that on the night the apocalypse began, she had been secretly tracking a criminal. The man fled into the mall, and she followed. Then in the cinema, a confrontation ensued. The criminal took a hostage, forcing her to back off. Before Liang Jihan could call for backup, the criminal abandoned the hostage and ran out of the mall, only to find it had already started snowing. Even more terrifying, many people around the mall began to develop pustules on their faces and bodies, writhing and screaming before collapsing. Both she and the criminal were terrified and hurried back into the mall. As expected, the criminal also died from the poisoned snow, but she was lucky enough to be just one step away from escaping the mall narrowly, saving her own life. Mr. Lin, the reason I want to commandeer your vehicle is so we can save more people. Bring the survivors trapped in the neighborhoods to the mall, where they can rely on the abundant supplies here for a chance to live. Liang Jihan spoke earnestly. Lin Dong couldn't help but sneer. Had he run into a saint? How do you plan to save them? Or let me ask, how many can you save? The permanent population of the entire Jiangxing is about 10 million. Excluding those who died from poison, freezing, starvation, or disease, conservatively, there are still nearly 1 million people alive. Do you think with your strength you can save how many in a day? 100. Even if I lend you the car, say you bring them all to the mall, or take the supplies out. What if the people already in the mall don't agree? Liang Jihan hurriedly said, I know, but as a member of the relevant authorities, it's my duty to save the public's lives. I know my strength is limited, but isn't that why I'm asking for your help, Mr. Lin? Liang Jihan hurriedly said, I know, but as a member of the relevant authorities, it's my duty to save the public's lives. I know my strength is limited, but isn't that, I won't give you the car. As for saving people, that's your business. I'm just passing through. Don't drag me into this. Liang Jihan was exasperated. Mr. Lin, how can you be so heartless? We're all survivors, helping others. Don't morally blackmail me. I have no morals. Liang Jihan was at a loss. This man was completely impervious. Silence fell in the air. The three women were having a great time shopping. Because it was so cold, the men, women, old and young in the mall were mostly grabbing thick clothes and betting, leaving the summer clothes relatively untouched. In a lingerie shop, Ling Shui eagerly picked out underwear. All of the kind that would make one's nose bleed. Ooh, this one's nice. This one too. Wow, this must be really thrilling. Outside the shop, the bearded man and two others were secretly watching her. Damn, this woman is a real slut. Look at the styles she's choosing. Fuck brother Biao, I can't take it anymore. I want to have her right now. The bearded burly man was surnamed Chun, called Chun Biao. Don't rush. Have you forgotten that Miss Liang won't let us touch the women here? Aren't you afraid of the gun in her hand? The two underlings reluctantly agreed, but dared not argue. In recent days, it was Liang Jihan's pistol that had kept them in check. But are we just going to watch? I haven't touched a woman in days, and now we run into this knockout. I'm about to explode. Chun Biao sneered coldly. I said don't rush. Listen to me, wait for the signal. Besides these three new women, every woman in this mall will be out. Ling Shui's ears twitched. She heard the three men talking outside, but she wasn't afraid at all, and continued picking out lingerie. On the fourth floor, Lin Dong found Liang Jihan's frustrated yet restrained expression somewhat amusing. Just then a young woman walked in. She was pretty enough, but her multicolored hairstyle marked her as a typical street punk girl. Hee, Sister Jihan, what are you chatting about? Can we go out now? Liang Jihan looked up. Jingjing, why are you here? The supplies here are quite ample. I suggest you stay and wait for rescue instead of going out. I was discussing with this gentleman about borrowing his car to bring over the stranded people nearby. Jingjing immediately showed reluctance. There were already enough people here, why bring more? But remembering her mission, she put on a sweet smile, ran over to hug Liang Jihan, and looked at Lin Dong. Hey handsome, your car is really cool. Where did you get it? How many people can it fit? Oh, I'm a mechanic. I was stuck in the repair shop and got bored, so I modified it. Lin Dong lied without a trace of a blush, while imperceptibly glancing at her restless little hand. Jingjing acted as if she couldn't care less, leaning on Liang Jihan's shoulder with a giggle. Sister Jihan, if you ask me, we already have enough people trapped here. Why don't you stop bringing more in? Liang Jihan's expression turned serious. Jingjing, it's already a stroke of luck that we survived being trapped in the mall. Who knows how many people outside are hungry and cold? As fellow survivors, we absolutely cannot turn a blind eye. Besides, before she could finish, she suddenly felt a looseness at her waist and hurriedly looked down. The gun was gone. Lin Dong shook his head. And she calls herself a cop. Her vigilance is too poor. Someone stole her gun right in front of her. But that little delinquent girl certainly has some skills. Looks like a repeat offender. Jingjing withdrew her hand like lightning, held the gun in her own hand, and examined it carefully. Jingjing, what are you doing? This isn't a toy. Give me the gun back. Liang Jihan immediately stood up, her face full of tension. Jingjing played with it with a smile, then suddenly grasped it, released the safety, and pointed it at her with her finger on the trigger. Liang Jihan was stunned more than anything, in disbelief that Jingjing would point a gun at her. Sister Jihan, look, is my boyfriend teaching me right? If I just pull this thing, you'll die, right? Jingjing, do you know what you're doing? This is assaulting a police officer. Do you realize that? You'll go to jail? Give me the gun back now, and I can take responsibility and not pursue this. Jingjing couldn't help but scoff, her sweet smile completely gone. You're such an idiot. Jail? Think you can scare me? There's only one cop here. If I kill you, who's going to catch me? I'm not afraid. Liang Zihan's face turned completely dark. Is this Chun Biao's plan? What exactly are you trying to do? Jingjing's boyfriend was Chun Biao, nearly 20 years older, old enough to be her father. You'll know soon enough. Now both of you get out. Behave, or I might actually shoot. She pointed the gun at Liang Jihan and Lin Dong. We'll see what you're up to. Liang Jihan stormed out. Lin Dong, on the other hand, kept his hands in his pockets, completely unfazed by the gun pointed at him. Arriving at the mall's first-floor lobby, everyone gathered again. But to Liang Zihan's surprise, seeing her being held at gunpoint, they were all indifferent, instead showing sneers and satisfaction. Why? Without her, they would have definitely fallen into chaos and more deaths. For a moment, her heart sank to the bottom. Honey, I've got it. Jingjing shouted loudly. Chun Biao's face broke into a wild grin, and he waved his hand. Guys, go. Take those 3 women down. The men who had been following perked up and rushed into the store. You? What are you going to do? Ling Shui hugged a large bag of lingerie to her chest, looking pitiful. The men laughed lewdly. What? You tell me. With that, they charged at Ling Shui from left and right. As the two closed in, Ling Shui suddenly switched to a mocking expression, her long legs kicking out like lightning, instantly sending them flying. The immense force sent their bodies crashing through the glass door, flying over the second floor, and landing headfirst on the first-floor ground with a heavy thud. Unfortunately, too much blood splattered, so they were destined not to win the double jump championship. Chun Biao's forward charge came to a screeching halt. Holy shit, this woman can fight. But because the floor was too slippery, he ended up kneeling and slid all the way to Ling Shui's feet. Ling Shui switched back to her pitiful expression. Uncle, you're giving me New Year's greetings so early. I don't have any red envelopes for you. Being a streamer, she was really good at changing expressions. Hearing that sickly sweet voice, the wicked fire in Chun Biao's belly was instantly extinguished, and he scrambled out. Ling Shui didn't chase, after all, her master hadn't said anything, so she went back to picking clothes. On the other side, Xin Wanyue and Zhang Zhu were also attacked, and similarly kicked the intruders away. Some fell off the floor and died, others crashed into walls, and their heads exploded. The sudden turn of events startled the mall crowd. They had been trapped here for days with few deaths, and now several had died in one go. It seems the people who came today are no pushovers. Liang Jihan stared wide-eyed at a women's clothing store on the first floor. She had just seen Zhang Zhu throw 2 grown men flying with a single punch and kick, and she was utterly shocked. What's going on? How are these women so strong? Chun Biao scrambled on all fours to the first floor, relieved that Ling Shui hadn't chased him. He immediately ran over, snatched the gun from Jingjing, and pointed it at Lin Dong. With the truth in hand, he felt a sense of security. Chun Biao thought his plan wasn't a total failure. Kid, what's the deal with your women? Lin Dong looked displeased. First, I don't like being called kid. I prefer being the big boss. Second, they are not my women. There's a difference. Third, are you sure you want to point that gun at me? Chun Biao was furious. What the hell are you pretending for? Tell those women to come over, or it'll blow your head off. Liang Jihan immediately stepped in front of Lin Dong. Chun Biao, what exactly are you trying to do? Do you know this is a crime? Chun Biao couldn't help but laugh loudly. Crime? Miss Liang, should I laugh at your overwhelming sense of justice, or at your stupidity? Don't you know it's the damn apocalypse? Do you know how many people die outside every day? Even if I commit a crime, who's going to catch me? Now the gun is in my hand. My word is law, my word is justice. Who dares to disagree? The crowd couldn't help but shrink back. Who would dare to disagree? Disagree or not, you have to accept it. Liang Jihan was so angry that her chest heaved violently. Chun Biao, take my advice, give me the gun back while you still can. Do you want to stand against everyone? At that moment, Jingjing suddenly interrupted. Officer Liang, it's not me who stands against everyone, it's you who stands against everyone. Everyone just now, Officer Liang said she plans to drive out and bring all the nearby survivors to our mall. These words immediately stirred up a frenzy of indignation. Recruit more people. The supplies in this mall are dwindling, soon there won't be enough for us. Why bring in more mouths to feed? Exactly. I oppose it anyway. I oppose it to Miss Liang. The supplies in this mall belong to all of us collectively. You can't just decide to recruit people. Hey, now she doesn't have a gun. She has no say anymore. From now on we call the shots. Haha, you're thinking too small, brother Chun. This Miss Liang is no less beautiful than those 3 stunning women. Since we're in charge now, isn't it only fair for me to have some fun with her? Edge. You mentioning that jogged my memory. Count me in, haha. We should take care of her. A security guard who's this pretty and looks so fragile. How can she possibly protect? She probably got her position through underhanded means. She doesn't seem like someone who climbed the ranks legitimately. This was said by a woman jealous of Liang Zihan's people. Listening to their blatant remarks, Liang Zihan trembled with both rage and despair. Just a few days after the snowstorm blocked the roads, she had sensed the imminent collapse of order. Chen Biao had gathered a few lackeys planning to take over the mall. So she had immediately revealed her identity and the truth, thereby suppressing the budding chaos. Yet in return she received nothing but scorn and ridicule. Their sharp-tongued, cold, and indifferent faces cut into her heart like a sharp blade. A profound sense of helplessness and icy despair finally condensed into a single tear. Everyone, please don't make another mistake. Among the women, a middle-aged woman in a mink coat stepped forward. She was older and seemed more reasonable, holding some influence among the women. Miss Liang, it's not us who are wrong, it's you. You want to save this one and that one, but in the end you won't save anyone. Instead, you'll only harm those of us who are doing fine. Take my advice, sister, and just drop it. Then she turned to Chen Biao. Biao, now that the gun is in your hands, this mall is yours to command. But I still have a suggestion. Let that kid hand over the car keys. He'll take a few women who are willing to leave, and we won't compete with you. What do you say? Bang! The gun suddenly fired. The woman's head sprouted a bullet hole and blood splattered onto the faces of others. They all stood dumbfounded until her body hit the ground. Fucking stupid old hag. You know I've got the gun, and you still dare to negotiate with me. Chen Biao sneered, then raised his head and bellowed. Brothers, from now on the supplies are ours, and every woman in here is ours too. You can have whoever you want. Except for Miss Liang and the 3 new girls, the rest are all yours for the taking. Let chaos fucking reign. These words unleashed the primal beast in every man. Lecherous laughter filled the air as they charged at the women. Off. Let go of me, you filthy man. The man raised his hand and slapped her so hard she spat blood. Fucking bitch, still trying to play the virtuous maiden at a time like this. In an instant the scene descended into utter chaos. The women screamed and tried to flee, but how many could outrun the men? Cries for mercy were incessant. No, please spare me. I have AIDS. Oh, what a coincidence. So do I. No biggie, no biggie. Off. You fucking loser, let me go. Miss Liang, save me, save me. Among these women, the loudest screams came from those who had been cursing the most fiercely moments before. Jingjing, upon hearing that Chen Biao was planning to take for women more beautiful than herself, immediately became displeased. Chen Biao, what's your game? Aren't you satisfied with having me? I'm telling you, you're not touching any of those women. Without me, how could you have gotten the gun? Chen Biao ignored her. Jingjing grew even angrier, grabbing her boyfriend's arm and throwing a tantrum. Chen Biao, you remember this, I absolutely forbid you from touching other women, or else. Fuck it, you can go die too. Chen Biao completely lost his temper. He raised his gun and shot Jingjing right through the heart. Bang! Jingjing stared blankly at the blood gushing from her chest, her eyes wide with disbelief at the ferocious Chen Biao. She tried to reach out for something, but her body crumpled helplessly to the ground. The bratty girl had ultimately paid the price for her youthful ignorance. Liang Zihan closed her eyes in anguish, still holding onto that thought. She wanted to save some people, but how many could she truly save? In the apocalypse, you can't save everyone. And even if you do, what's the point? They are nothing but a pack of ingrates who won't remember your kindness, only resent you. Liang Zihan felt her very faith wavering. Chen Biao cast a disdainful glance at Jingjing's unseeing corpse, then immediately swung his gun towards Lin Dong. Could hand over the car keys now. Now that he had them all under his control, all he needed was a vehicle to be free from the apocalypse's threats. Sigh, I've already said I don't like being held at gunpoint. Lin Dong heaved a deep sigh, then suddenly raised his hand with lightning speed. The Golden Desert Eagle spat out a bullet. Before Chen Biao could even react, it blew his head off. Heh, damn. Chen Biao's eyes rolled back, and he collapsed backward. He had held the truth in his hands, was on the verge of a life of unrestrained indulgence. How could he die so quickly? Unwilling. He was so unwilling. This sudden turn of events not only shocked Liang Zihan, but also terrified everyone else. Holy shit. He has a gun too. The men who were in the midst of their assaults were instantly frozen with fear. Maid's done shopping. Lin Dong clapped his hands. We're done, master. The 3 women each scurried back, carrying large bags looking like they were rushing for a train during Spring Festival. Put your things here. He'll allow you to cut loose this once. If Snow wins, your punishment is cancelled. The three women's eyes lit up simultaneously. Yes, master. Ling Shui in particular was cracking her knuckles, brimming with fighting spirit. Just as Liang Jihan was wondering how they would cut loose, she saw Shun Wanyue distribute a large cleaver to each of them. Clearly the meat cleavers she had confiscated from the supermarket earlier. Three stunningly beautiful women wielding massive cleavers presented a visually striking scene. The next second, all three dashed forward simultaneously. Jiang Zhu lunged at the nearest man. Her cleaver rose and fell, splattering a great arc of blood as the man's head flew high into the air. The girl beside him was terrified, her face splashed with blood, and she let out a piercing scream. Shut up. Jiang Zhu frowned slightly and brought the cleaver down again. The girl fell silent. Liang Jihan watched in utter shock as the three women massacred their way through the crowd. Man or woman, young or old, anyone they encountered was felled with a single swing. Severed limbs and heads flew everywhere. Who could have imagined these were three delicate maidens? They were more like three female demons of slaughter. What kind of normal person fights like this and kills without blinking? Lin Dong, stop them. You can't kill indiscriminately like this.